Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Pork and Bean Show, starring Pork Cunningham and the world's handsomest man, Frank Oliver Baines. Sit back, relax, and enjoy as we take you on a deep dive into the enigma known as Sasquatch and other paranormal phenomena.
It's a hard world to get a break in, and the good things have been taken. But girl, there are ways to make certain things pay. Oh, I'm dressed in these rags, I will sable someday. Hear what I say, I'm gonna ride the serpent. No more time spent sweating rent. Hear my command, I'm breaking loose. It ain't no use me down. Stick around, but baby, remember, it's my life and I'll do what I want. It's my life and I'll think what I want. Show me I'm wrong, have me some time, but someday you'll treat me real fine. Now there'll be women and a fortune who just want to mother orphans. Are you gonna cry when I'm squeezing them dry? Taking all I can get, no regrets. When I openly lie, I love the money. Believe me, honey, that money. Can you believe? I ain't no saint, no complaints. So girls, throw me out. Any doubt? And baby, remember, it's my life and I'll do what I want. It's my mind and I'll think what I want. Show me I'm wrong, have me some time, but someday you'll treat you real fine. Push me! It's my life. I can do what I want. You can't tell me.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Pork and Bean Show. We're just waiting on Tobe Johnson. He's booting up. Hopefully he'll be here soon. And as far as Mr. Beans goes, I don't know. I have a inkling he might be having a nap. Slept through it, but we'll figure it out. We'll see how it goes. So early October in British Columbia here, well, I guess worldwide, and the weather is just amazing. Still warm in the 80s, not much rain, and geez, I'm itching to get out camping. I was in the woods all day today and found some great stuff, some great structures and stuff. And you know, I've always said that structures are an inexact science, but I got some really good answers today. I mean, I'm not saying that I don't know that the Sasquatch make a good deal of the ones that I find, but you know, humans can be evolved too. I don't know what the ratio would be, 60-40, maybe Sasquatch 70-30, something like that, maybe even more. But you know, humans do make them as well. But you know, my new book is just out, and I think I'm going to have to be doing not a sequel, maybe, but putting some additions to it, because I realize, you know, there's some things that I'm learning all the time. It's like a, you know, constant evolution, constant school. So I'm learning all the time, and I might add a few more chapters or to it, or do an addition kind of thing. The word for that kind of escapes me, but anyway, add a little more onto it. But I'm going to start writing a chapter or a story on what I'm going to call it. What was I going to call it? Sorry, I'm trying to gather my thoughts here. I'm just wondering where the guys are. I don't talk that well when I'm just looking at the screen and there's nobody to talk to. Addition and subtraction, that's what I was going to call it. And, you know, with the structures, sometimes subtraction, or what they take away, is sometimes even more compelling than what you see them doing. A couple things hit home today. There was a couple big structures, teepee structures and whatever, that were up just a few days ago, and I noticed that they were gone. Now, you know, a kid could go or kids could go and make a structure, and then they would leave and it's still there. And some other kids, because that's the nature of boys, especially, they want to just knock things down and be rowdy, whatever. So, you know, they would go up and knock them down, and but the kicker is they would just leave the debris there and the wood or whatever they used to make the structure. But I found a couple times today that there was absolutely no trace of anything. There was nothing on the ground at all. So whatever was used to make it was totally taken away, which defies logic, you know, for a human involvement. And, you know, when I think about it, I've seen them reuse the same things many times, sometimes in cliffs as well. So it does absolutely make sense. And that was really revealing, because I do not see people doing that. And I've actually noticed that quite a few times. And I've kind of always had that knowing about it, but I didn't articulate it in words so much. And so I was pretty excited when I realized that, yeah, they're taking a lot of this stuff away, and that's not human behavior. There was another thing that was really cool, is addition and subtraction. Like I said, oh, here we got Tobe on right now, so I'm going to let him in. But there was a cliff, a ground cliff that they left, and I saw it in one particular place, and it was tied up together with red string. And I went in a few days later, and it was in a totally different area, which, you know, got my suspicions, because people aren't going to make something and then just move it for no reason. And then today I went in again, and it was not only moved again, but it was incorporated into one of the structures. So that's not human behavior either. So there was some exciting insights that I already really kind of knew anyway, but just kind of hit home and really verified it. So let's bring Tobe in now. And there he is. Hey, Tobe, how you doing? I mean, Tobe, sorry.
Hey, man, I'm doing good.
Sorry,
can you hear me all right?
I already screwed up. I said your old name. Although, I'm kind of disappointed you changed it because I've always wanted to say Tobe or not Tobe.
Hey,
that is the question.
As long as I'm not going by Cubby.
Cubby. Yeah. Oh yeah, I was using that for a while. Remember, Cubby.
Oh, for the people that are watching, we have a Brian and I go way back.
Yeah, we've got kind of a sick love-hate relationship.
I know. Maybe I should turn on another light here.
Yeah, we do, man. Yeah, I've known you for quite a few years, and been a pleasure knowing you, actually. So how you been doing?
Good, man. Is it just you and me?
Well, I mean, it's supposed to be Mr. Beans, but I got a feeling he's done this before. He's pretty old, So.
Okay.
He takes.
All right.
He takes naps. He doesn't wake up at times. So.
Two beans or not two beans?
Two beans or not two beans? That is the question. So, one of our most treasured moments, I think, was, that I invented the character, because I've got a warped mind, as you know. So I invented the character, the Duchess, and
yeah. Explain the background here for people that are fortunately uninformed.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'll probably explain it to them. Well, I just get all kinds of weird thoughts going in my head. So I just thought, well, there's this old dowager in England, some old lady or whatever, but she's under the delusion that she's of royal blue blood, right? So she talks like that and expects to be treated like that. So he talks, oh, hello, pedestrian, and then that kind of stuff. And, whatever. And
you can imagine where this leads after a couple drinks. It just, before you know it, everybody's doing the Von Dutch.
Oh, Toby. Oh. Oh. But anyway,
you really hit that nice break in the vocal too. It's difficult. It's almost like yodeling, where you got to come in high with a falsetto and go back down. But you're a trained vocalist. Do people know that?
I don't know, but
they don't know about your Elvis.
Oh, they know about my illness. They just don't know to what extent it goes. But anyway, the embarrassing thing is that I don't know if I had an off day.
See that smoke in the background? That's to tell you a lot about the times we've had.
No, that's a picture.
Oh, okay.
That's not smoke. That's an entity.
Oh, that's not okay. I didn't know that.
That's actually an entity. It formed out of orbs. It was very cool. I've told the story many times, but I'll tell it to you one day. Anyway, it formed out of orbs, and it's conscious. And we took a series of pictures, and every picture was progressively changing. But we figured out, or my teaching from that was that this entity was bringing its consciousness in from all different points of consciousness, almost like godlike, right?
Right.
And it formed into that, and then there's more to it. But that's basically it. But anyway, we transgressed. So, yeah, we were doing the Duchess. The Duchess around the fire one time when we got together, and it's always nice hanging out with you. And I don't know if I had an off night or what it was, but we had a little Duchess contest around the fire, and I came in second place to you, which which was not.
I don't remember. I don't think I've ever come in second place to any of your impersonations or impressions.
Oh no, you're good. You're absolutely good. You've got a gift.
So here just so people know here, my internet I'm looking at a few things here on my computer here. I had to do a reboot before we logged on, and I'm getting an error that my internet is unstable for some reason. So if for some reason I need to log back onto a different Wi-Fi, I'll warn you here. But let me know on your end, and maybe anybody who's watching this in the comment section, if it isn't translating.
It sounds not bad right now. It's working so far. And there's Mr. Beans.
Hey.
I was telling
Hey,
you
Michael.
you've slept in on us before, and I thought maybe you weren't going to make it.
No, I got this. I was, got ready beforehand, then I got sucked up watching a video and I ran out of time. So 10 minutes late. Did you say anything interesting in the last first 10
Yeah, we were
minutes?
slamming you, saying that
Oh, that's good.
you're
That's
old
good.
and that you probably slept in.
That's entertainment for you.
Yeah, yeah. I always enjoyed
Trying to
it.
get to. Damn, that Facebook just changed
Yeah.
everything. You can't even get into your groups and stuff anymore. What's going on here?
I don't know. So, Tobe, tell us about your. Well, I mean, you've got your. We'll try the videos, although if the internet's stable, well, we'll give it a shot. But why don't we talk about your book and how that came about, and also you're involved in the those two movies, and there's a sequel coming out, is there not? A Touch of Beauty, right?
A Touch of Beauty. Um, the It's called A Flash of Beauty, Bigfoot Revealed.
Oh, okay.
And
that was me.
came
A
out.
touch of beauty.
That's
Sorry, a
Chavatas.
flash of beauty. Well, I really do my homework, as you can see. A flash of beauty.
Touch
Yeah,
of brain
sorry.
damage. Now, I believe Memorial Day was the day that it came out. Memorial Day 2022, and part two will come out Memorial Day 2023. And so, how I got involved with it, is that what you want to know?
Well, tell us about it and some of the people in it are, yeah, how you got involved in it. And I mean, the people in it are amazing. You got Arla in there. You got Ron
Yeah.
Moorhead. And the thing I like about it, from what I've seen, is, you guys are talking from a whole different perspective than most of these like Bigfoot or Sasquatch shows. You're actually, talking about their abilities and posing, questions that are usually taboo over the mainstream kind of broadcast or whatever. So you're not pulling your punches, which I like.
Yeah. Well, we could even play a trailer here if the internet connectivity holds up. But I got involved with it via an interview that me and witness Daryl Adams did for the production company, probably around 2020 time frame, right around COVID. And the reason this documentary started was because of the C word, the pandemic. And a lot of people were out of work, including this production company in Portland, Oregon, run by Jill Remensnyder and Brett Eichenberger. And they feature films and commercial work. It all dried up all at once. And so they had this passion project. And they were new to the field, so they just started showing up at Bigfoot events and went to Beachfoot. If people don't know what that is, it's an invite-only Bigfoot gathering in Oregon on the coast. They went there and they met Daryl Adams, the guy that I lived on property with in the little town of Cottage Grove, Oregon. You've been out there, Brian.
Yep.
And so Daryl and I, had a story to tell, and Daryl met Jill and Brett at it and said, hey, if you want to come talk to us both, come on down and we'll do an interview. And so that's how things started. And since they didn't really know any of the Bigfooters, they only knew about Beachfoot and a couple conferences, they could see that I kind of knew a little bit of everybody in both the Flesh and Blood camp and over in the True camp.
Good.
Not the
way to
Woo
say
camp,
that.
but the True. And yeah, so that's how things started. Once we told our story to them on the back of Daryl's little Durango or whatever he had. We were sitting up there in the mountains above his property telling the story, and they could see the earnestness and the strangeness that we had to relate to them. And that really, I think that struck a chord with them. Just like, now, wait a second. We thought maybe this was just going to be this kind of story here, a personal narrative experience of how Bigfoot, which shouldn't exist, has changed humans' lives and how it affects their, their past, present, and future. But then we found out the stranger side and how real it was, and how we basically said, here, this is where it happens. You guys go there. We don't need to be with you. Now you know where to go. And they started going and having experiences. And so we just kind of became friends. Brett had an interesting government background, and Jill is, very savvy producer. And so between these, the savviness and this government background, we got access to talk to a lot of different people that had never been put on camera. Some of them never. New faces involved with this, and some that hadn't been talked to in years, including, people like Henry Franzoni, who, I refer to a lot. Henry really was the first initiator as far as understanding how weird the subject matter is for me. Back in 2007, I was doing a talk show on Blog Talk Radio on my little Dell computer. I think it was an HP, very inexpensive computer, like dial-up modem action. And so I was on Talk Shoe Radio. I started a podcast called Bigfoot Air, and Henry was nice enough to sit back and talk to me for a couple of hours, totally picked his brain, and he basically said what I continue to hear from other people is that the subject much stranger than the public's ready to hear about.
Yeah.
And so, when you're ready to talk about the stranger things, maybe you should dive into Nikola Tesla. And I was like, what? Come on, what? And so, telling me really odd stuff, like extremely bizarre stuff that happened in, I believe it was the Tillamook Coast Range in Oregon, where a lot of this stuff had happened to him and his wife. And, Henry had known all the Bigfooters from the early 80s, including DeHenden, including Peter Byrne. Byrne spent close to $5 million in the Mount Hood wilderness via a government program called the Glickman Project. They studied Sasquatch for 5 years. People can look up on Google the Glickman Report, and it's a very interesting study that no one ever talks about. And it may be because Henry's name's attached to it. Henry has been blacklisted, and I think he likes it that way, and kind of subjugated and canceled because of his outrageous point of view as a scientist, a retired scientist now, that Sasquatch is exactly as the First Nations people told us.
Yeah. Well, let me just interject in there. I mean, because where Henry goes or whatever, I mean, I cannot see those guys, because I met Del Hendon and I met John Green and I met a bunch of those guys. Those guys were, and with all due respect, it's just where they were at the time or whatever, they were not open to that kind of stuff. So I and that was early on in the game too. I mean, even today, people like us are getting flack. So I can imagine that, he would be like laughed at or blacklisted or however you want to say it. But,
right. Or just discounted.
Yes,
I mean, it's
discounted, right.
It's not as though people were saying things open. First of all, there was no social media, so how do you do that? It's just discounted and over. And that's, silence is the way that they did it. Now they, you just get labeled immediately, and there's a million other, thought balloons that they superimpose over your head, and, right. So, that was my introduction. And then immediately it was into the world of Tom Powell and Ron Moorhead. Now, all three of these guys are high respected as not leaving their brains at home. They come fully packed with a secure amount of intellect and a vast amount of evidence to back up their strange theories that Sasquatch A is real, but B much stranger than the public would have you believe. Um, and they basically all three were telling me the same thing. It's just like, yeah, you could look at it the eyes of a relic hominid did not exist back in 2005. It was all Gigantopithecus, Gigantopithecus blacki, Gigantopithecus blacki, and then Autumn Williams crowd. After I did my first conference in the little town of Eugene, Oregon, at LCC, a public or a little college I was going to, and invite Jeff Meldrum and Autumn Williams to kind of piggyback as keynote speakers. Autumn Williams, turns to the scientific crowd there as a witness, a mother, Sally Walford, and says, Gigantopithecus blacki, Gigantopithecus blacki. This is what we keep hearing, the mantra. She says, if the doesn't fit, you must acquit. Basically, what she's saying is there's no divergent big toe. So therefore, all of this evolutionary connecting that people want to do, or as labeling Sasquatch as being linked to the now relic hominid, which is kind of a new interesting term coined for something other than Gigantopithecus blacki. And she was right. I mean, it was a clever comment. I'm sure she worked on it before she hit the stage. But that lack of a divergent big toe, and there is evidence of there having a divergent big toe, like a primate, hooking off to the side. Certainly not in the Harbor cast. The number one cast that you see the flesh and blood guys carrying around is the one from Shores, Washington, cast by Sheriff Harryford. That is a human-like footprint. In every shape. There's not even a mid-tarsal break, I believe, in that one. And the mid-tarsal break is only theoretical. Maybe we're talking about something way than anatomy is concerned. So the point is that, back in 2008, 2009, I threw myself in the mix of all these Bigfooters with, diverse opinion about the ecology. Bigfoot back then was basically marginalize the flute players that are talking about all of this craziness like Kwani Laparitis, you or Michael are proposing. And let's just talk the plaster, and let's just talk about what the natives said, and the kind of like patting natives, First Nations people, a little bit on the head, saying, "Oh, your stories are brave. You're very brave people. We respect you so much." But on the other end, they're kind of like going, this oral tradition stuff, I don't know about it. Well, it's not just their oral traditions that talk about the social connection. It also has to do with they named that have to do, and these places very well, Brian, especially with your connection to the natives up there and Randy. So it's much more than oral tradition, and it has to do with the totems. It has to do with the longhouses that give them permission to talk about the stories. It has to do about the First Nations people talking about things like cloaking, things about possible hybridization,
Walking into
gifting,
worlds.
Walking worlds, trading, all these things. So these are all things that now, fast forward to 2018, after a whole host of weirdness, I entered the town of Little Cottage Grove and meet this retired guy, Daryl Adams, who basically, Daryl, if you're watching, he was a little bit unassuming, a lot unassuming, and tech savvy, and not interested in the supernatural connection of Bigfoot. But I could kind of tell early on, or at least I was guessing, just given where he had moved to, that he was going to have activity of one sort or another that he would hear about. But I said, after about a month of looking into his property and becoming friends with him and his wife, I said, Daryl, I think this subject matter is way stranger than most people do. And, if you start hanging out with me, you're going to get labeled. just by proxy. I was like, you don't have to have this opinion, but I'm toxic compared to what a lot of people's opinions are here. And plus, we got this giant SASQUATCH trackway here called the London Trackway, which is now being disputed by the people in the flesh and blood world. And I'm not 100% on that at all. So I said, if you, want to part ways, whatever. But I said, I think this is, a pretty active area that you moved to, and I would love to look into it with you. And to my surprise, he said, move in. He goes, I'm retired, and you can do your little projects here when you get home from work inside the garage. And, by then we'd already cast some impressions. And it was at that invite and casting these impressions and kind of just making myself at home in this really cool, it was very interesting area to move to, because it was right next to, and this will come into play here, I'll write it down so I don't forget, the geology of Bigfoot is a lot like pointing a satellite dish heavens in order to catch a signal. And I didn't have an appreciation for that, but looking back, the geology where Daryl lived was in a parabolic shaped valley. It's important, I think. I don't know, but I think living at the base of a valley where there is a flowing river and a vein of gold, quartz, and iron coming down. Also behind his house was a major power line, the Bonneville power line that goes, I believe, from Canada to the Mexican border, goes along the I-5 corridor.
SASQUATCH Highway.
Man, you could have a BB gun and hit her. What's that?
I said SASQUATCH Highway. It was power line.
Yeah, so there was a lot going for it, and I think that geology maybe pointed to a type of geomancing. That is to say that, it was the perfect hotspot point for something supernatural happening. So it probably rested there for, but they basically just said, okay, we're going to pour catnip all over here, and let's see what happens. And so it was pretty active from the get-go. And I go into it, but once the production company found out about this, they're like, wait a second, what the hell's happening on this property? And I said, yeah. I was like, maybe we can get permission from the new landowners, because Daryl had sold the property, and there was this couple from Beverly Hills that moved in and bought it with cash. And I said, maybe we can get permission from them to film down there, like the good old days. And that was cool, because we got them to film for 48 hours. They basically went on vacation and us the keys. Took some faith on their part, for sure. And although nothing happened like it did in the book, between Daryl's house were two parcels, two homesteads. Well, there was actually homesteads, but two of them that we had connections. One was a guy named Wormy who owned a worm farm up on the hill, and he had a worm farm to grow. He was growing like farmer soil, for potting ash and for, I guess, to make better soil.
Yeah.
And Wormy and his wife and kids had told us stories before about things like a blue-eyed bear on two legs, things like a floating chandelier coming down below the tree line and beaming you in the face, things like strange objects showing up on the patio. And the other side, not really neighbors, but these 20-acre, 5-acre parcels, would tell us other stories about. Now this was this was an old man in a double wide that lived up over about 5 acres away. His cat would go missing, an elderly cat, and about 3 weeks later the cat turned up. I believe it was less than, I think it was more like 2 weeks or something. Anyway, the missing showed up on the sliding glass door behind the house, where the sliding glass door was on top of the deck, and it was flat. its head had been crushed and had been delivered by something that took the time to bring the corpse there, sneak into this acreage, go up on the deck, and lay it on the patio. Something didn't just come along and step on the cat. There was no blood, or from what we know about the case, that was not reported. And so, these are both on both sides of Daryl's house. We hear these stories, and then it was like Daryl just had a target on his house. If it was like neon letters that said Bigfoot crossing, they saw it and just like, oh, okay, we'll just go down there. I don't know what happened, but learned shortly that it was not only Sasquatch stuff, that it was everything, except the kitchen sink, and even the kitchen sink, I guess. So that's how it started.
Well, let me ask you, because one thing I've always appreciated about you, because I've known you a long time, is you use a lot of discernment and you ask a lot of questions, and you don't believe things just out of hat. You have to experience them yourself, you're very open-minded too. So I know you've really progressed and gone further and further down the rabbit hole, and now so when you first moved into Daryl's place, where were you in your understanding of them, and how did, and at the end of it, and at the end of the book, how did your understanding of these people change, or their abilities, or who they were? How did it change?
Yeah. Well, by then I'd had already seen the lights on several occasions in and around Sasquatch activity. I'd heard very interesting stuff up Sasquatch humor. I've heard things about Sasquatch sexual habits. I'd experienced possible trickery or animal mutilation in order to kind of set me up. I'd had things run at me in broad daylight and come 12 inches from my back that sound like an elephant on two legs. I'd talked to bow hunters at conferences that would break down in tears after they would listen to Ron Moorhead sounds and say in 20 years to figure out I'm not crazy, and have their wife come around and console them, and in front of hundreds of people at a conference.
Wow, that's
so all that. Yeah, all that profoundness, right, was pretty cool. And then I'd seen myself just really chase after this phenomena in a way that felt like a drug. Like I was already an adrenaline junkie, and the outdoors were my drug of choice. But then found out that I could actually experience magic. Not like, oh, magical nature. No, like I could have a profound sci-fi crazy experience and see these lights, or have these, everything I just described to you, and not die. There was really no. There's nothing that came out more than an adrenaline dump, and not out of fear's sake. Like, there's nothing that happened to me that I perceived as dark. I'd been with people when as though they're in the middle of this dread response, and with these people, and seen their face and watched the terror in their eye, and seen the PTSD or the emotional response that they had for several years after. Watch them turn to anything other than the truth, including drugs and alcohol. Yeah. And I'd been warned, they tell you early on about the Bigfoot curse, right? And that's something I'd heard early on, after talking to Henry Franzoni. Basically they're all saying, hey, just watch how much of this you chase, because after 30 years you're just going to be finding out you're chasing shadows. And so if you can kind of weave this into the rest of your life, as it should continue with humanity, don't end up like Renee collecting dot at a shooting range, pocket change, just so you can go out and buy a bag of plaster. So there's some real reasons to take this with humor, first of all, and you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt, because nobody knows I don't believe anybody knows what the hell's going on here. Um, there's a lot of
Bits and
speculation, but no
pieces
one
is
can
all you
prove a
really
damn
get.
thing as far as the facts.
Yeah, can I just interject?
What's that?
Um,
Yeah.
you were talking about some of these people who like had, um, traumatic experiences and basically went right out of their mind, never go into the woods again. But is it the way that they interpreted what happened? Because I think that what one person will interpret what happened, and it'll be a good thing, and they're open-minded, and they just know that they're not being threatened or whatever. Another person will have the exact same occurrence, but they'll think, oh, they're trying to kill me, and it's just fear, and they're not embracing it at all. I really do think that it's a lot of it is interpretation, and a very
I
simple
don't. Yeah.
a very simple example of that is like when I have a rock thrown out in the path in front of me. It's, hey, my friends are here. Cool. I'm happy, right?
Mm.
Somebody else has that. They get their gun out and they're like, the damn thing's going to kill me, and they're freaking out, and they're like they're automatically in a fear response. So I'm not saying that these are people. So I'm not saying that you can have a bad experience with them, but I think a lot of it is in the interpretation. Do you agree with that?
Yes and no. I think once these things figure out a way to toy with you or send you packing, they have the ability to do it without being there. They can send spooky action at a distance and you can't see a damn thing. And I say that because I've seen, grown men cry in the woods, and it wasn't as though they were interpreting. They wanted the experience. They were there with me to have the experience. And to watch a guy turn to you and say, I'm going to cry. They want me to leave. I'm going to be sick. I'm going to throw my gun in the bushes. That guy, by the way, who said that to me. And to be standing right next to the guys as this happens and nothing happening, or, another person standing next to us. So there is this real specific targeting. I used to think it was, like a form of focused, almost like focused tech. Like they could shoot a laser at a certain individual and fill their head full of, whatever they're going to do with them. But I don't think so. I think it's at a cellular soul level what they're doing to these people. I think it is so spiritually, psychically filled. It is beyond what we can understand as far as infrasound is concerned. This is not the same as what lions do, or orcas, or elephants.
No,
not by any means. They're telling people things specifically, like you're going to die if you take another step. We don't want you here. Why do you have a gun? And then they're smirking at them. I've had people tell me that they give them an ironic smirk, like, yeah, you idiot, we can do that. And these are cops telling me, because they profiled people before and said, this thing looked at me like, I've had a jump on you since you got out of your truck, you asshole. So these are things that make me think this way. Now, I can't prove anything, but it makes, let me tell you what, taking these kind of guesses and talking about them, I get people that approach me and say, listen, that's exactly right. This is, you're leaning in the same direction that I was. And so we start building up these theories about what's possible. The big one, though, is that, no one should care what any of us say about this phenomena. They shouldn't care at all. I guess it's entertaining. You guys are super funny, and, you're not ego-driven at all. And this is a great, lighthearted show. And we're talking about Bigfoot, which is already ridiculous. But don't take our word for it. Just don't. Go have your own experience. And the best way you can do that is to have an open mind, hop on Google Earth, go grab a map, and look for the craziest sounding name in the remotest area you can think of, and go find somebody to have a beer with for 3 or 4 days in the woods that you really get along with, in this area that has a crazy name, like Baboon Creek is an area near Oak Ridge, Oregon. How do you think Baboon Creek got its name in the early 1900s or late 1800s? How do you think a place like Devil's Mountain or Ghost Ridge? These are all names for things that are crazy sounding or scary that people have experienced. I would even say go find like a rock quarry, something that has been ripped as far as like a side of a mountain. Gold veins, copper veins near quartz or power lines. Just get yourself up, bring a lot of tech. Just get yourself in a position of like, oh, I just want to go see the stars and have an IPA with someone I really get along with. Keep it low numbers. Sleep out in the open as much as you can stand. Don't freak out over every little sound. And don't quit talking when you start experiencing something. When you start hearing something or seeing, keep it up. Keep talking. Keep the mood light. You know what I mean? Play some music. Just know, Kenny G.
Yeah. Yeah.
You were talking about the high strangeness and stuff. We're coming along to the path of explaining some of this stuff in ways that are well thought out and researched, like the remote viewing people, right? The remote viewing people they've been studied. There's schools for remote viewing, and then there's people who track everything that's going on in their remote viewing sessions and all this kind of stuff. Well, they have like stuff that happens to them while they're remote viewing. Sometimes they can bilocate. They can feel like they bilocate, and then they can do this stuff called remote influencing, where they can actually go to a filing cabinet somewhere and open the filing cabinet and pick out a file while they're staying at home in their basement. You know what I mean? So, but then there's this other thing that I heard a remote viewer talking about. He talked about there's this thing that the remote viewers can do. It's called neural engagement, and it's kind of a little bit like mind speak, but like when you're talking about, you're standing there, you're having a great day, and the sky's shining as if everything's beautiful, and the guy next to you starts to cry and says, "They tell me I got to throw my gun away," right? That's neural engagement. Or somebody just gets an overwhelming sadness or overwhelming fear runs over them, and somebody right next to them may not feel that. That is where they actually manipulate your emotions, or they manipulate the impulses that we have, right? That's neural engagement. And, just the more we start stacking these little...
It reminds me a lot of what, it reminds me of what Elon Musk is inventing, the neural implant, which is going to do exactly that.
Yeah. And they already got that.
Yeah. So what are the consequences for humans becoming cybernetics as far as the supernatural is concerned? Because we already know that the supernatural loves tech. It is engaging with tech like a Ouija board. It can dance with your devices. I wouldn't be surprised if you guys have got strange recordings delivered to your phone, or strange things have happened here. It engages with tech. So if you have tech now somewhere near your pineal gland and you're out in the woods, it's going to be pretty interesting to see what the hell happens. It might be like going out in the woods with a fur coat on, just like, wait a second. Are you one of us? I've never seen a human with a giant fur coat. You're out there with a neural implant, and all of a sudden you're seeing him out there and saying, holy cow, you're delivering the message to me. I don't know. It's going to be an interesting future.
We don't really have a good grasp on what's going on. Everyone hears about elementals. What's an elemental? It's like earth, air, fire, and water, right? Those are the elements. But those things turned out to be conscious, and that you have to have earth, air, fire, and water, or the sun from sunlight, in order for anything to manifest. We can't operate on this planet without these things supporting us. And it turns out that they support us
Right.
by allowing, probing people, getting this neural engagement to give us the gift of light. And that is, what is light? It is electromagnetism that's caused by spinning rocks, like a magnetic rock and a copper rock. You spin those together and you can generate electricity, and then run that through a wire and you have a
Hmm.
light. And it just goes on until you get TV and radio, and then you get the internet. So to me, this whole thing is magic, like wild, wacky stuff, because we're looking at something here that could not happen without Silicon Valley, which is a rock, right? Silicon is a rock, and electric current and all that kind of stuff. That is a gift, pure gift for us. And we're over here looking at this and that and everything else. We're not realizing we got stuff going on that we take for granted every day that's like mind blowing, where that stuff actually came from.
Hmm.
I like
So,
what you said. I like what you said about them engaging with techno. Did you say technology or with phones and cameras and stuff? Is that what you were saying, Tobe?
yeah.
Hmm.
Um, because I've experienced many.
Radio, internet, the whole thing.
No, I've experienced many. Yeah, we've also had experiences on the internet. But Susan and I have had pictures taken off our cameras. I've had pictures added onto our camera. They even put an image on a picture after the picture was taken, which was a friendship welcome X. They put it on after the picture was taken,
Hmm.
and 100% positive. And they're so evolved with that kind of stuff that I've actually was talking to two guys about how they can take pictures off of cameras or whatever. And then I said, hey, check that picture that we took today. So we're going through it and we're all talking about it. And guess what? All 50 other pictures were on there except that one picture, right? And then later in the day, they added another picture onto there. So, I mean, you're bang on with that. You're absolutely right on with
We
that.
just don't. We're assigning blame. In my opinion, we're assigning blame too early. Because of the connective tissue of finding handprints and hair and footprints and vocalizations and sightings and witness testimony and blue-eyed bears, it could very well be that it's Bigfoot. But because of this revolving door of things coming and going with Bigfoot, including elementals or UFOs or ghosts or
Yeah.
time slips, and you don't really know what the hell's happening here, who to assign blame to. But we know you're not allowed to even talk about there being one thing assigned to blame in normal society. And I was listening to that Dr. Travis Taylor from Skinwalker Ranch talk at Phenomicon, and he said a lot of interesting things, very interesting things. But he also said, we don't have a program for this in our public education or in any kind of college course. No one can talk about these incredible that now know that the government is highly interested in studying and maybe have a better grasp of it than any of us do. I mean, certainly they're not coming to us asking what we think about Bigfoot. I know a few people who they've come and asked and threatened. One person in particular that found a stone called rubidium in the Ording River, she was pressured to stop looking. For most people not interested in talking to, it's because they have access. And the phenomena, like my buddy Rich Germeau says in this documentary, Rich says they're not rare. This is not a rare phenomena. It's talking about it that's rare. I think seeing a Sasquatch might be more common than a cougar. In fact, I'm pretty sure it is.
I've seen
More than a
I've seen
badger. How many
Sasquatch about
badgers
four.
have people seen?
I've seen. Sorry, I've seen Sasquatch about
Yeah.
4 or 5 times. I've never seen a cougar.
Yeah, that's why it's believable. At first, I had these what I call extended experiencers telling me, "Oh, I've seen Sasquatch a multiple." Well, that sounds totally ridiculous.
Sasquatch what?
On its, seeing Sasquatch multiple times sounds really ridiculous to the skeptic. It even sounds ridiculous to most people that are into it because they've only, said they've seen it once. And I believe them. However, once these things get to know somebody that they want to entertain, they seem to show up. I mean, at the Al Moon area, it was almost every other night,
Yeah.
and sometimes it was every night for like 2 weeks straight.
I agree
And
with
was
you.
it always Sasquatch related? No, but we ruled out that we were being hoaxed, so we weren't worried about that. We weren't contamination. Some of these things take a while to debunk. Sometimes they take years to debunk something. But one thing we learned quick is that this phenomenon was absolutely real because it would come at us both. Just like one time we had something run between us in the middle of the gravel, and less than, it was a huge man on two legs around 11 o'clock at night came rushing out of the bush, ran between us, and then jumped into the blackberries, and we couldn't see a thing.
But
And it was dark, but it wasn't that dark. I mean, for crying out loud, I had my FLIR camera with me. And so, we got to know pretty damn quick. And then sightings started to happen. I saw one from the knees down about, 40 feet away. Daryl would end up seeing one run through the power lines that looked like, a 7-foot tall, skinny basketball player jumped into the blackberry bushes again. Said it was moving so fast it looked like it was skipping through time.
Yeah.
And then he took a photo of it, and it's just this weird blurry image that, couldn't say what it is. But, this documentary is not about the supernatural at all. It's a immersive, beautiful eyewitness testimony that looks at how these experiences change people. And this doctor, this psychiatrist that they interview, gets into how brave it is and how cutting edge it is to be a pioneer talking about taboo subjects, like, because it's really the narcissist that doesn't talk about this, that buries it and basically pokes at other people for having these experiences. It is the open mind. It is the hero's journey, to basically lose everything, including self-preservation and ego, by saying truth. And there's something profound, obviously, about being a truth teller no matter what. And over the last 2.5 years, I will tell you that being the truth teller eventually will set you free. And I think it's the same here with Sasquatch as well. And by the way, there is a COVID angle in my book that I basically had to call the publisher and say, don't print my book yet. There is a COVID angle to this. And it was a surprising moment, very surprising. And so we documented all this on camera as it happened. In fact, I'll just mention real quick here, I don't have a copy of the book in front of me, but it's an immersive book. Call it IBT, Immersive Book Technology. And so as you read along, it has these QR codes, and you just turn your smartphone onto and it will take you, by scanning the QR code, to the chapter as far as the audio and video is concerned, or forensic evidence that we collected, because we rolled camera all the time on the property. So you go immediately right to the camera footage or the audio that I'm talking about. And so I've never got anybody back yet that said the technology didn't work, or blah blah blah, or it was hokey. I haven't got that. And I haven't got any debunkers either that come back and said, oh, this is an elk out in the field, or this is obvious BS, and you don't know your wildlife from a hole in the ground.
Well, I heard.
But that's kind of what we wanted to talk.
I heard some of you.
Yeah, do we want to play some of this
We
audio?
do want to play something, but we do want to try them, and they were very impressive. But I just wanted to say, they're not necessarily funning with you, in my opinion, because you are basically speaking positive about them, with some discernment, because but you're getting information out there, which I think that they actually want. I mean, there are people like myself and Arla.
Well, listen, here's the deal. I don't even know who God. I don't even know who God is. You know what I mean? Like, I'm fairly certain that we're not part of evolutionary randomness. The blind clockmaker exists, and here we are. I don't. That's the funny thing about evolution and this phenomena is that with enough time, magic is allowed. But if you compress time, there is no room for magic. But if you give billions of years, suddenly magic is allowed, and we can go from sludge to this, with basically bringing slough out of the ground and building all this hyper intelligence. So the magic wand of time, magic is allowed. I think it's really interesting how that exists. This phenomenon has proven to me that that is absolute bullshit. That magic persists in an instant, and that these extreme changes happen quickly.
Yeah.
And that's what I've taken away. For me, it's empowered my walk to, look at God differently. And people have said to me like, "Oh, you're looking into the Nephilim, or you're looking into things that God doesn't want you to look into," or just been brushed off by clergy or pastors.
Because they're judging you. They're judging you through their box of beliefs.
They're just not ready to take the red pill, and they've never lived.
They can't get out of their box of beliefs.
Not everybody should, Brian. And that's the thing, is that you have to let these people go. Again, like the last 2.5 years.
Yeah.
I'm going to make another analogy. You have to let a certain section of society go, and just not give a damn, and collect. Collect yourself, and
yeah, you can't give a damn.
Yeah.
You've got to tell your truth and what you know, whatever, and it doesn't really matter who believes you.
No. I disagree with that, Brian. That the notion of telling your truth to me is flawed, and I always like to stop people when they say it, because it disempowers the power of truth. Your truth is subjective. The truth is repeatable and provable, and the fact that Sasquatch is something people can experience, it's the truth. And now that I know that, so there's no ambiguity with truth. It's either real or it's not. This idea, and I have close friends too that say your truth. I just caution everybody from adopting that phrase, because it's going to get us in this gray neutral area where you have wiggle room to adopt these new social norms. And obviously we don't want to do that. We're seeing the repercussions of people's truth come about now. But with this phenomena, it is true. We do know they exist now as a group. We're not going to convince anybody that it's true. We know it's true. And so I kind of get into that a little bit in the book and talk about people's different opinions as it relates to their truth with this. Like, people that call Sasquatch the Clan of 12, and they live from the planet Zipzorp, and they know, everything about what they're here to do. And it's just like, that gets into your truth, your truth territory. And, to me, it just smacks of the wrong direction that I want to go.
The flat Earth syndrome. You project it out there, and then you create the reality to try to match it.
That's fine, but my only point is that truth, or however you want to look at it, however you want to phrase it, I don't really care what people think. In other words, it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell what I've learned and what
I wasn't coming at you, Brian. It's just I know that I have really good friends that use that term, and I just think that especially after what we've been through, probably the three of us, the last 2.5 years, is that we have to cling to truth as it stands, provable. Yeah. And this is just something that really bothers me about the culture today, but it's a little bit of a soapbox.
But you also agree that some people, I mean, at least they believe it, and I totally believe it, that some people, like, their experience with Sasquatch is like a student-teacher relationship, and it's all positive. Like, I think Arla would concur with that. That's my experience.
Yeah.
I've never had a.
And I'm not there yet. Like, for whatever reason, I just, You know, maybe what happened in Cottage Grove was because of who Daryl was.
I
There's
think
something to be
that's a
said, I think,
factor.
about.
The factor, and who you were too.
I think it is. Yeah, it's like having a tuning fork with one stem. You're just not going to get the resonance you got at that other stem of the tuning fork. And I think I kind of piggybacked off that tuning fork, because Daryl would go there and have stuff happen when he was a lot of times,
Yeah.
and I would kind of have to be with Daryl or in his vicinity to have things happen. Now I would see the after effects of what that they had been there, or they would do strange stuff to tech, but it was just more like, I don't know. They were a little either hesitant, or I just wasn't enough, or blah blah blah. So I never got to your zone, Brian, as far as having a teacher. Um, I would have loved to at least said something like that, like I had a name, but I
Well,
don't even know if we asked for a name.
that's not
I
that's
don't think
not
we
all that
did.
important, man. You're doing some of the best work out there.
You are,
Educating.
man.
Well, nobody's ahead or behind anybody else, and I mean, like you said, it's my truth. So I mean, it's subjective, but this is not a judgment thing anywhere,
Mm.
at all.
It
And
does
it's
feel
not
like a bit of it does feel like a bit of a race, though, to find out things, like a fun race. Like, I look at it as like, oh, when we were there, it's just like, we found this. I don't know anybody who has this yet. It is like collecting really cool baseball cards. You can't help it. It's part of like who you are, and you try to not make a big deal of it. But when you find a hair, or, you get a sound, like something that kind of sounds like, the Sierra sounds.
yeah.
That just like, oh, this is a game. We are keeping score now, and you just can't help it. It's just like it's fun.
I was shown something a couple of, I guess it was last month, or maybe, yeah, the first of last month, somewhere in there. I was shown that the Sasquatch people there's around 1,000 Sasquatch in the United States, around the world, and they're connected to and observing around 4 million people. And this gets back to what you were saying about, I don't know if I have a teacher. I don't have a teacher like you do. But they don't necessarily want to be in your face, or sitting down at the table and, you know, saging the area and giving you the great wisdom. That's not how they teach. They want to teach just the way they're teaching you. It's like, oh, look at this, and some other little thing, like a rock drops in the middle of a locked garage, brand new steel garage, and you hear a rock drop in the middle of it. Right, so that's just very subtle stuff, but that's a teaching. You know what I mean? And you have to do the
Mm-hmm.
1 and 1 equals 2. There's nobody in there, and then you open up the garage door and there's the rock. So
And they interact with
there
everybody.
we have that's what they prefer to teach. That's one of their modalities. They prefer to teach from the background, from the inside out, by giving you hints and pokes. And this the deal is, you're still engaged in this. This is what 2007 until now. You're still engaged on that. That's a lot of poking on the neural engagement. Like, yeah, look at this. What about that? How
Yes.
there's a you know what I mean?
That's
Because
a lot of plaster under the fingernails.
Yeah, that's constantly going
you'd
on.
have to you'd have to
Everybody's
be
got
really engaged if you were studying badgers. You know what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
would I would like look at a badger for like a couple of hours, maybe watch a documentary on
Yeah.
badgers, but I wouldn't. That's the only one I'd probably ever watch. So something
Yeah.
else is going on.
I did step away for about a year because I thought, well, this is a puzzle that, I thought I would be able to solve by now, which was really foolish. And, but then it just was so addictive, the mystery behind it. And then I thought, well, I kind of love it because it will never be solved. And it will just be this giant running open invitation to experience magic without there being any really resolution to it. And so I encourage people that are, into the supernatural side of it to say, hey, just go look at it. Like, I've never seen the aurora lights, right? Like, that's something I'm still waiting to see. And it's kind of like that. It's a fleeting thing that is very unusual. And, It's probably something that easily be described quicker than I could describe it, but it is it's an open, beautiful mystery that you have to be at a certain place and time to have. And yet here I haven't even had that. I've seen Sasquatch from the knees down. I can't go see the Aurora lights, and literally the Canadian border's right over here. So interesting.
Well, you can now.
Hey,
and I think
you
you
can
have.
now,
I
right?
think you have. I think this it's this thing that great mystery you talk about. We don't know who God is. We do not know why the breath comes into our body and then leaves, and another one comes in and leaves. We don't know how that works. We don't know how a heart beats, right? And I'm thinking it's on this level. And yet those simple things that happen to us continuous day in day and out, the whole life depends on it, right? And then we take that for
Mm-hmm.
granted. And there's these same things that are going on external to us in the realm of nature and the realm of weather and all that kind of stuff. These are big, powerful things, and we have no understanding of it. We just take it for granted. And in that, there's a consciousness. In that, there's a message that says teaching, you know? American Indians talk about the web of life. We're all connected. We're all brothers and all that kind of stuff. You know, we've been hearing that as you know, Anglo Americans. We've been hearing that for 500 years, and it's just now beginning to dawn on us that everything is alive, everything is connected, and we're part of it. You know what I mean? It goes back to what you're saying. Got to listen to what the American Indians are saying. They've been saying and laying it down for a long time.
Yeah. Did you want to?
I agree.
Did you want to play some of those clips, Tobe?
Yeah, let's set it up. So before the show, we made sure that these sounds would actually play. I don't think we should try to play video. For some reason, my internet provider is really throttling our account here the last
Yeah.
month. Thank you.
I think people are aware of
Um,
the.
but we could definitely play some audio, and this audio would be some of the audio, not all of the audio from the book. Some of this is newer audio that I've found because there was 1,400 hours worth of audio recorded over 2 years. There's still audio being
1,400
recorded up in
hours.
this area. So this is isolated via spectrogram. So that's a visual signature that you can find once you upload your audio, and you can look at it visually and say, okay, that's weird. I can tell that's weird. That's not a plane. That's not a car. That's not a chipmunk. That's what I want. And you isolate it and you put it in a file. So let's go ahead and I'll explain as we go through them. I'm going to hit share sound. And there should be some sharing that happens here now. Let's see. See my screen?
Yeah.
Let's go to the Duchess Delight here and load up some sounds. All right, this takes a second here. Okay, so in the book, the Owl Moon Lab, a paranormal experiment, you have the opportunity, as I said, to go along this journey with this technology by scanning the QR codes with your camera phone, and it will take you to an embedded website case to Hangar One Production or Hangar One Publishing, my publisher, and a clip will be ready for you. So there's just audio, some of them not video. And the reason that there's so much audio because I think it's important to the initiation process of Sasquatch coming around. Now, a lot of times, this audio would start off with, I'd get these texts from Daryl saying, hey, I know you're truck driving, but something just the side of the house. It sounded like a rock maybe hit the side of the garage. I don't know, something big just happened. And so I would talk him into leaving a parabolic dish pointed, which he had on hand, and he would duct tape it to a wooden kitchen chair and point it in the backyard towards those power lines. And then I was working graveyard, so I would take my little digital recorder and stick it in the groove of the awning in most cases, of my trailer, which had been parked there in the gravel yard. So between my trailer parked out front was a section of gravel, a large shop that was just built that you could park 2 RVs in with these giant automatic roll-up doors made of metal, and then the main house. So generally, that was passive interaction that we would have with them as far as trying to hear what was going on when we left. And as soon as we started doing that, strange stuff would start showing up, including these gifts. Things would be moved or placed. Very small, inconsequential things would be placed, like small rocks, or but they were put like in strange locations, like the top of the awning of my trailer. Like a carnelian stone would be placed on the awning of my trailer, or this piece of chocolate opal would be placed below the parabolic mic pointing towards the apple orchard. And chocolate opal is pretty rare to find. There's no natural place for that to fall in the lawn.
You were
nearby.
gifted those, you figure, right?
Well, this one, I don't know, is placed below Daryl's parabolic microphone. So
Yeah.
is it Daryl's gifts? Probably.
Well, okay,
But
somebody.
a lot of that stuff he would just say, "Take it." I'm moving so much these, I don't want to lose it, kind of deal. So just take it or hold on to it. So that's an example. But the reason I bring up is we would never really get audio of these things being delivered. We would get that sounded like clicking or snapping or something like that, or this maybe like a wood power knock or a slap of wood, or wood erupting. So let's play some of these initial sounds that we got. And most common was either a wood popping sound or a wood clacking sound, or a finger, almost like a fingernail coming up to the head of the microphone and flicking it real quick. So it may have sounded like a rock being thrown, but there was never any secondary sound of the rocks landing. In the case of where my recorder was, it was all gravel. So if something threw something, and it'd have to be a nerve to not make a sound hit the ground. It could have been a bug. It could have been the wing of a large bug, or a hummingbird. We found out that we debunked a hummingbird on 2 occasions. But then we started putting the recorder in locked areas, like inside areas, and we still get these weird sounds. So let's play one of them. Tell me if you can hear this. There it went. Play it again. Play it again.
Oh yeah, that's quite a loud knock.
And one more time. Like a rifle being shot. It sounds like wood hitting wood. It could be something heavy snapping. I don't know. But we would get those things over and over. And so for us, it was just like, well, that could very well be who's leaving these gifts here. Then we would get knocks like these, or sounds like these. Let's see if I can play this one here. Basically, we recorded a knock when I was pulling in from work. It seemed as though something was knocking at 2 in the morning as I was getting home from a graveyard shift. Not a great example. But then we started to record sounds which sounded like traditional whoopings. Again. Can you hear that okay?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. I want to. I want.
Okay.
That's identical to what I've heard many, many times. That's, in my opinion, that's definitely a Sasquatch whoop.
So, the routine is I would get home from working as a truck driver about 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock on, spring or summer day. Um, that was the mainstay of the Al Moon Lab was spring, summer, and fall of 2018 were like the prime months
Yeah.
that we would have there. Although it would happen in winter as well, but it was a big summer. And so I'd get my computer out, which I'm on right now with you, and upload the last night's audio and look for these signatures. And that's when we started to find, it's like the more we looked into it, the bigger the gifts got, frequent they got. It was just like, if we engaged, they engaged.
Yeah.
If we engaged longer, the experience would get bigger or more extreme or more intense.
Is that
And
like that they were monitoring your level of openness, or there was a two-way connection there somehow?
it felt like they were always just standing on the edge of the tree line watching to see how we would treat this, what we would do. Um, and there's some interesting photos that Daryl got of what looked exactly like something standing on the edge of the tree line watching us, kind of with its hands on its hips, just kind of, like someone who's kind of bored, like, hey, come on, I worked all night on creating this here. It's not just a, ball of twine. I had to go to a campsite 30 miles away, jump through a portal here to put this, in front of your car here. Give me a break. But anyway, I make fun.
I really like.
So then we started to get more intense sounds as we engaged, and I believe this is a loop audio enhanced what sound like suspected Sasquatch howl or moan. Is that coming through?
Perfect. Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Wonderful vocals.
So,
That's got the
it's not every
Sierra
day you
sound
get a
flavor.
sound like that.
That's amazing, boy.
Right. To
That's
see
on,
that
this is
sound
on par
too
with the
was a
Sierra
signature.
sounds, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is that, at that time, I was planned for Ron Moorhead to recreate the Sierras sounds. It was like experience Ron Moorhead party with a bunch of close friends, his and mine, in Cottage Grove, including friends Brian knows, and create the shelter, build a giant Bigfoot, put it behind the shelter. I mean, there's there's a lot of strange synchronicities happening, including Ron coming to the Al Moon Lab, right? And then his daughter moving only a few miles away and moving in with a friend of mine.
Hey, we
So
got a
there's
guy.
there's a Ron Moorhead connection here.
Hold on a second. We got a guy in the waiting room. Do we want to let anyone else in here?
Oh, I thought you said you're going to do that, but so I put a link in there.
Well, should we?
Yeah,
I
why
guess we should
not?
see what the guy wants to say.
It's just people are polite,
Okay. Anyway, both of those last two recordings were phenomenal, Tobe.
Okay.
Phenomenal. And I don't
Do we-
I don't think it was anything but Sasquatch myself.
Well, there's always the idea that there's some other person out there looking for Bigfoot playing audio and that's known for Bigfoot.
No, I don't think so. I didn't. No, I don't believe so.
Well,
Yeah.
the things that we clung to were the things that would come in close, that we could hear approach the microphone. When we had things come in less than 5 feet away, that's when we knew it wasn't, BFRO up there playing ape sounds.
That's too clear, and it's no. I do not believe that was any kind of.
And this is the number. This is the eighth recording that you caught out of like what, hundreds of recordings. Who's going to be out in the woods for like 3 months every night? I mean, that just doesn't make any. That doesn't comprehend. It's got to be
Well,
something else.
yeah. I mean, like I said, we were able to justify some of these recordings based upon how close things were starting to happen, including, locked, which gets really uncomfortable for a lot of people. Start getting disembodied voices coming into a locked area.
Just give me a second. Hey, Justin, how you doing? How are you, Justin? Can you hear us?
Justin looks at us.
I can't tell if his mic or whatever is on. Anyway, if you can hear us, we will get to you and you can make a comment or what you want soon. But we're going to listen to the rest of these sounds. Those sounds are amazing.
Justin's got a killer Jeep there.
Yeah. Okay.
Come on, try to come back, Justin. We couldn't hear you, man.
What's up next?
All right. So, clip number here.
9.
These are sounds I usually play people at my booth to keep them engaged, and I usually have a pair of phones for people that want to hear Bigfoot, and so they can hear audio so they look at evidence. As I said, there were gifts that were placed below this parabolic microphone in the backyard. It was sitting out exposed. Parabolic, a giant, looks like a satellite dish with a rocking out of the middle of it, a digital recorder, and you focus, all your attention and amplify the sound so you can hear something miles away and it will come in crystal clear. And so that was the point, is that we would use two different systems. One close range, which would be my microphone in the front yard, and then long range out towards the area where they'd been seeing other people. And so this is some audio that we had captured on the parabolic, and it is behind and where the parabolic dish was pointed was not only this Bonneville power line, there was an abandoned orchard and a yurt where a single mother lived who talked about pine cones being thrown at her yurt. And so she had motion activated lights put up and a no trespassing sign. But between the apple orchard and the yurt was nothing but wilderness for, over 20 miles till you hit I-5 or something like that.
Yeah.
And so between this apple orchard and the parabolic dish, there really shouldn't be anybody up at 1 a.m. running around. So what you're going to hear comes on the piggyback of property damage to this fence that separated the apple orchard and Daryl's private property. It was just a simple pieces of rebar with fence holders on them and metal pocketed deer fencing about chest high, so maybe 4 feet high. And after this audio, we had found that 2 of these pieces of rebar, about a quarter of the way up or 3/4 of the way up, had bent almost at a 30-degree angle. So just to explain how crazy that is, if you take reinforced steel and try to bend it, let's say you wrap your arm around it and try to torque it, you're probably going to loosen the soil because it wasn't dove into dried cement, it was down into the soil. So you're probably going to have to loosen that soil a little bit to bend it. I doubt you're going to be able to bend it as a human. You're going to need an implement. But this was even more difficult because they had bent it without being able to torque it below. They were 3/4 of the way up, so there was only about this much area to... You see what I'm saying? Do you guys get what I'm
I hear you.
Okay. So it was bent. All right. And there was a dingleberry sitting on the fence like something, just a piece of poop there as it went over the fence. So this is the audio we... And you're going to hear, I think, something really important, which is a popping sound. Okay. This popping sound we got a lot of. And usually is predicated during, before, or after, usually right before and during initial action would start. or a gift would show up, we would get one of these weird popping sounds, almost like, I don't know, it sounded like a piece of wood hitting a home run. It almost sounded like, Mickey Mantle hitting a home run, just a weird cracky pop sound. And then you're going to hear something land, and you're going to hear something, it sounds like something pop immediately hits.
Okay.
And then you're going to something approach the microphone. So I'll just play it. If you have listening devices, just go by the book. Here we go. And again, on my end, a little bit crappy sounding. My internet is ding up. And
We could hear it pretty good. Were there some vocals in there?
Yeah, so I don't know. Let's ask Justin Martinez what he thinks. Did you hear anything that sounded like vocals in there, or I mean, did you want to chime in? Maybe Justin, you've been sitting on hold for a while.
Actually, I didn't hear. I thought I heard a little bit of chatter, but I couldn't tell. The audio quality wasn't picking up on my end. But that
Okay.
it's interesting that you mentioned the popping noise. From because they're interdimensional. What I could tell when they're popping into our dimension, let's just say it has they're disrupting the electrical field. So you'll hear a pop, you'll feel a very, very powerful electricity emanating from wherever they pop in from, typically. So that's you had my head nodding when you said I heard this popping.
This brings joy to my ears, dude, because it's been so difficult trying to explain to people exactly what you're saying, and I was just like, I'm trying to explain it to people, just like, no, it's almost as though it's a sonic boom, but it's like it's flexing through and substrate you can't see. It's breaking the paranormal barrier, and so you're getting this inertia sound of it, upsetting the magnetic spectrum or whatever it's doing. And there's this initial, you can't describe it except like a snap or a pop or a hit sound.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've experienced that, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. So are you an experiencer yourself?
Well, very interesting. Not in the physical form per se. I haven't, that I'm aware of. I've had certain experiences that did I see that or did I feel that correctly? Not right. Being fully aware, just knowing something. So like, what resonated when you said that seeing figures on the tree line that look just like TV. They for me, I have seen, well, they show themselves in like faces, and I'm not sure if it's the tree spirit or if it's the Sasquatch, but I know they're there. I know it's like a playful energy. I've never had a fear encounter.
Yeah,
mine's more been in a more loving, playful manner. But I did have experience, that coincides with that fact, and how I know that they're dimensional beings. So I'd love to share at some point. That doesn't have to be today, but like you're welcome to.
Well, thank you for coming on. And we're not, and you want to hear more. But are you done with the videos now, Tobe? that all you want to share?
Well, yeah, just because the thing is, I wanted to hear what Justin was saying, and when I share my screen, my internet is just going no bueno. So,
Yeah, he's breaking up a little bit.
thank
So
you, Justin, for uh, making sane.
yeah, I've had the same kind of thing, Justin. I've had nothing but positive, loving experiences with him. So loving that I've actually been reduced to tears and whatever. And I have kind of like a teacher-student relationship with them. They're constantly teaching me. It's kind of like going to school.
Mhm.
That's what it feels like. You're in kindergarten and they're teaching a little more, and you're going up in the grades or whatever. But I think they interact with us all differently, and it just depends on what you're ready for and what they think they can show you. And then some people they don't want to interact with at all, except for just to beat it.
Mm-hmm.
We can't do anything with you when you're not welcome, kind of thing. So, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's your experience?
Back to me.
Oh, who
Back.
you talking to, Justin?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. How do I unpack this? Okay. Let's start off by I started having experiences with let's say UFO encounters, lights in the sky.
Yeah.
That's where it started. And it was pretty intense. And I had during that time that it was happening, because it didn't happen just one time, it happened several times over a course of a long period, a duration. Can you guys hear me okay?
Absolutely.
Okay. So it started off there. And then I started noticing, becoming aware of more, let's just say. Especially on the energetic or frequency, spectrums, and noticing, beings that one would recall from fairy tales, like fairies and little, different beings, right? I began seeing them, and as I, as a pretty well aware, when you start approaching the subject to your friends, family, loved ones, because you're excited, that's who you want to go share the experiences with first. Oftentimes, they're not ready for the message that you're about to give, and typically you're shunned, or at least that's my experience. I went through a very shunning period, and a lot of people kind of fell out of my life because they didn't understand my experiences. Okay, I know it was real, but they just couldn't fathom it happening. And actually, and a couple of them were witnesses to the events, and it's weird. Maybe they just didn't like the ridicule, but that's neither here nor there. So one day I went in. I have a friend who worked with energy. Very, he doesn't like to use terms like shaman or healer, but he actually runs a crystal shop and does energetic healings. So I went and visited him because I had some things that I needed to wanted clarity on, and obviously because of my experiences, I there's a point where from a let's just say I just went and saw Derek. Okay, we went and saw Derek to kind of unpack some of my experiences, and I know he's a very gifted individual. So while go ahead. So during one of the energetic sessions the sessions that I was in with him, lo and behold, a Sasquatch walked in. okay, in energetic form, and that was the pop. I know firsthand that the room got very charged with electricity. The lights went out, the computer went dead, and then all I could see. So I'm Derek was actually standing in front of me. I'm laying down or sitting down on his couch, and for some reason I couldn't necessarily move my left. I wanted to move my left shoulder because I heard the pop. Derek had said, "Oh, big guy stood up," and I wanted to move my head, but I couldn't move my head. But I just saw a big glowing golden light over my left shoulder, and um, the Sasquatch. I asked Derek what his name was, and he says it was like a umber. Um, anyhow, I thought that was really cool, and the message that umber, the reason that he showed up, according to Derek, was to return an item to me, and I have no recollection of this item. I have no idea. I was just trying to unpack, but what had happened, my experiences. Anyhow, that's what popped in. Returns an item to me. I asked Derek what the item was, and he said it was a kind of like a quote that you lent the juveniles. And he's, of course, I have no recollection of this. However, it did happen. It was with me and another individual, and he says like that had never happened before. Well, he said it's only happened one time in his, 1,000 different sessions, and that was with him. So I have so now based upon that, he popped just as instantly as he popped in, the electricity left the room and popped out, and it was amazing.
Yeah,
totally amazing experience.
yeah. Well, I've been walking in the. I was walking in behind an area that I like a lot, and I could hear an energetic crackling right outside of my right ear, and it was like a real energetic crackling sound. So I can totally associate with what you're saying. And I took it that the individual was right beside me, but yeah. Well,
I know they exist, and I take it when I came across the pork and beans. I saw you guys on Danny and Elena's podcast.
okay.
A lot of what you were saying resonated because you're taking a more multidimensional approach to it, and you with the knowingness, because
Yeah.
they touched you, and I don't know that. Well, it's refreshing to see that approach, because I think there's this interconnectedness that most people overlook. As certainly mainstream science overlooks. You know what I mean? They take a physical approach to all of it, but there's more.
Absolutely. Tobe, anything on that?
Yeah, there's a lot of connective tissue to everything Justin just said. I think we're just now getting to the territory where the sounds of the phenomena are being studied beyond just screams, whoops, howls, and language. This other stuff that you just described here, Justin, and that you heard, Brian, it needs to be looked at because it does have a signature on spectrogram where you can see the unique quality of where it's hitting on the hertz level. And that's where I kind of turn into a forensic nerd when you can sit there and look at the uniqueness of these signatures, including these small click or pop sounds. And then you can get messages from people on say, listen, I think this is important too, I've been wondering what this all means and what it adds up to. I mean, there's so much to unpack with what is connected to the Bigfoot phenomena, but you get so little response from academia to look into of it. You do get some response from academia a little bit when it gets into things that they have got snooping. They've been caught snooping around with things like ball lightning. In fact, there's a top secret clear to study ball lightning that no one really knows about. But why would they be so interested in studying what is called relic neutrinos and ball lightning? It's an interesting thing to keep classified for sure, especially when they point it as being something totally irrelevant and unimportant. It's almost, the swamp gas of the 21st century blaming for mysterious and UFOs, but yet they're very interested. And talk a little bit about that in part two as far as why that may be and what it's related to. But when it comes to these sounds, it seems you don't have anything, because I know the pop or snap sound happen. There, there was a moment that we did catch on video where I was studying sounds around 12 o'clock in the afternoon after I got home from graveyard shift, and just to set the stage, we're sitting inside this lock shop with both of the giant bay doors closed, and there's one door with a deadbolt lock off to my left, and we have a picnic table sitting on a slab of cement in this garage. And I'm listening to sounds. We have the speaker set up, blah, blah, blah. And as we're listening to sounds, we're waiting for the neighbor, Rin, is this guy's name, to show up. And he was just this new, cool punk rocker kid that was in a band, but he'd worked for Lauren Coleman at the cryptozoology museum, I believe, in the East Coast. And so he was all tied in to the supernatural already. In fact, he worked for Lloyd Pye. If anybody knows that name, Lloyd Pye had these Star Child skull and was looking into Bigfoot back in the mid 80s with Quanti Laparitis. If anybody goes on Google and types in Lloyd Pye, I believe it's Louydyee, and he wrote a book called Everything We Know Is Wrong. There's a beautiful hour-and-a-half lecture on his work in Sasquatch that people should look up, and look up Kawani's early works from the mid 80s as well, because Kawani was talking about this kind of stuff long before I was. So I still haven't met. Lloyd had died, but Kawani is still looking into this stuff. I never met him. Anyway, back to the garage. Dun dun dun. We're sitting in the garage waiting for Ren to show up, and I have my Jeep Commander sitting in the gravel. The trunk, the trunk is open because I was excited to get home and listen to audio. And it was one of my favorite cars I'd ever had. It was just a really nice classic Jeep Commander, and bigger four-wheel drive Jeep V8, the whole business. In the back, I didn't want to get any of the fabric damage with my hiking boots, so World War II wool olive drab blanket laying flat in the trunk. It'll come in a second. So we're listening to audio. I'm between audio segments, and Daryl goes, "Did you hear that?" And I said, "What?" And he said, "I heard heard that snap sound, or that click or boom sound." And I thought, well, we knew that the ribs of the metal shop would flex, especially around noon. You could hear the heat expanse happen, and it would make a pop or a little bit of a boom sound, but like what we would record. And I said, "No, I didn't hear it." He said, "Well, it sounded like almost like a rock got thrown at your car or something." So I was like, "Oh, okay." And then we hear someone coming in the gravel driveway. So it's the neighbor. We get out, come around to the backside of my Jeep Commander, and up the driveway is Ren. Second time I've met him. And as we're sitting there, kind of all exchanging how crazy the property is, and we're kind of going to give him the grand tour of where the hot spots are. I look in the back of my Jeep, and sitting on the olive drab World War II style blanket is an object 3/4 off to the left, and it is kind of rusting, a rusty silver color. So I quit talking as those two are visiting, and I lean over there, and I turn on my camera because at this point we're already. I mean, you have a cell phone. Spot's weird. We've already read Hunt for Skinwalker. We know that these places exist. So like I do, I get my camera out, and sitting off to the left is this weird object. I don't know what I'm about to film, and so you see it in the book. And no, I'm not going to tell you the rest of the story. No, I'll tell you. Off to the left was this World War II trench can opener that had been rusted shut, sitting on top of this World War II olive drab blanket. And so that must have been put there by, I don't think Renton walked the driveway and put it and snuck it in my car. By then we'd had so many, examples of a weird popping, hitting, snapping sound and something apporting into the property or quickly being placed by a silent, Santa Claus. And that also is an example of, pairing two things together that belong together. This World War II style blanket with this rusted trench can opener. Appreciation for American history, the GIs. There's an appreciation for knowing, to find it, perhaps. It's a moment of opportunity. So that's a really incredible thing that we filmed. I didn't know what.
And it was personal to you. You made those connections. But you're still making those connections. You're still telling the story about it. It's like they gave you a story.
Yes, yeah. It's like I talk about this Tobe phenomena that my girlfriend Erin coined, and it really is the best way to describe it is they tailor make an experience just like they tailor make a suit for an individual. And only you can wear it and share it. It's just like you can't tell the other guy, the neighbor down the street, because it's tailor-made for Brian finding a rock with a face on it. It's tailor-made for Michael getting another baseball hat delivered to him. It's tailor-made for Justin when he has a weird sound coming out that sounds familiar to him. So, like I say in this documentary, these can drive you crazy. They're the precursors of a type of psychosis. If you told a doctor about this, that you're having delusions of grandeur and think you have gifts being delivered and strange sounds in your ear, they're going to probably try to medicate you or at least evaluate you and look down any other avenue than a supernatural avenue. You can't go to clergy. You can't go to your spouse. You can't tell your son. You can't tell your mother. A lot of things that you can't do that are very separate from having a unique experience that you can tell somebody about. Like yesterday podcast, and you can tell people that you won the lottery, and you can tell them that you experienced something so tragic and so scary that let's say you were in a war scenario and you watched your buddy get blown in half. These are both very traumatic, life-altering events. Well, Sasquatch is between those two events. It is between those $1 million moments and experiencing something so life-altering that is like watching your partner get separated in a battlefield, because there is a separation. There's a separation between you and the old world, because now you've red-pilled. Okay? There's a separation between you and the rest of the and everything that you had experienced beforehand. And if you want to go chase this damn monkey, now you got to explain why. So it's a totally different experience. And, if you want to see a classic, go see Close Encounters of the Thing with Roy Neary, played by Richard Dreyfuss, and watch what happens as he is shaping those mashed potatoes into it means something. That only makes sense. that makes sense to a host of other people, just the general audience, because mashed potatoes shouldn't mean anything. A rock with a face on it should not mean anything at all, because it's parody. The mashed potatoes are just a dream. Um, but these things all make sense, and it's an exclusive club. Like I said, it's a school, secret schools of sorts. Whitley Strieber wrote a book called The Secret School. Um, and Whitley, by the way, is totally interested in the Bigfoot subject. If you guys don't know Whitley Strieber, the author,
He was supposed to get in touch with me, and I tried to, this guy, what's his name? Anyway, one of his friends recommended me. Huh? Willie Schreiber.
You get right up in the microphone. You're like 3 times as loud as everyone else.
Oh, I like being loud. I'm a loud guy. But no, but anyway, so I never really did, I tried to get in touch with him, but he's like one of these big media guys, written 100 books, and I couldn't kind of break through that barrier. But
he gets a lot of.
He's interested in
fans,
the Sasquatch and ET connection.
Well, and just for what tie on what you were just saying, Toby, about where do you go with all this? You know where I found the most understanding and insightful group of individuals? They've been in the spiritual community, spiritual metaphysical community, because they understand frequency. They're tapped into, I live in Washington State. I don't know where you're at.
He's in Oregon. Oregon, Washington.
Justin, you're breaking up.
Okay.
So I'm near the Olympic Peninsula in Washington State.
Okay.
Oh, really? I'm in Washington State as well. And
you are? Okay.
I am. I'm close to. Well, I'm on. You know where Anacortes, Washington is? Gateway to the San Juan.
I was a Navy guy. I was at the Whidbey Island Air Station for 5 years. I lived in Anacortes on the golf course.
Yeah, that's a Squatchy area, man. Over near Deception Pass. Yeah, there's a lot.
Do you mind me asking if you have First Nation?
I am. Yeah, Navajo.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Do you know? Let me ask you real quick. Do you know her?
Do I? Pardon me?
Do you know the name Marcia K. Moore?
No.
Okay. She works with the Lummi people out there, and she is studying the Longheads, North America, and so she hikes in Anacortes all the time. So you have interesting neighbors that are working on mysteries here in the Pacific Northwest. But go ahead.
What's her name? Can you type it like in the chat?
Her name's Marcia K. Moore, and she lives in Bellingham, but she hikes in Anacortes.
Okay. Yeah, probably Mount Erie.
Yeah. So
are you on Facebook there?
I can't hear you anymore, Justin. Is it on my end?
Yeah.
Can I hear any of you guys?
Did you lose me?
Okay, there we go.
We can hear you. Hey, Justin, are you on Facebook?
I can hear you now.
I am.
Why don't you send me a friend request? I can send you her name, and I know her, and we can get talking or whatever, because I'm quite interested.
Because she would be very interested in meeting you, Justin, and of course I would as well. Let me just plug something real quick here too for anybody listening, because I want to keep contact with Justin and anybody else here. Is that I want to meet all these people that are part of these secret schools or these lodges that we're all being initiated to, and there's a way you can do it. I used to do live events once a month out here in the Olympic Peninsula. I may do them again here soon, but there's a Sasquatch event just now being organized on Memorial Day weekend of 2023, and there's a speaker roster that I'm putting together right now, along with the owner of one of the big in Forks, Washington. So if anybody is around Memorial Day weekend, once we release the speaker roster, you're going to want to show up. I'm trying to get people that have never shown up in the Pacific Northwest to talk about Bigfoot and do some unique stuff out that way. So, Justin, if you can come out to Forks, but certainly we'll talk about that event. Also, we'll be out at the third Yakima Roundup with Bob Gimlin, and Paul Freeman's son is going to be speaking at this as well. So if you know the history of the Patterson Gimlin film, Bob is turning 90, I believe, and Paul Freeman's son. I've never heard Paul Freeman's family talk about all the stuff that happened in the Blue Mountains with him. But as far as Bigfoot lore, Paul Freeman's kind of a historic guy. He's the one that got the knuckle impression and giant 18-inch footprint and got some pretty incredible video of them walking through the brush. So that's coming up, I believe, on the 22nd of October. And so we'll be showing this film, Flash of Beauty, part 1 and part 2, part next year. But we'll have a booth there, your chance to director and see the film. They're going to play the film, and I'll be there Friday and Saturday, and then I think the next event is not till May time.
Cool.
Hey, come back and promote it. You like a month or so, or come back and promote it again. Just to do a little show on your conference. Because you're kind of out there a couple of.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, come do another show or just talk about that kind of
we're
stuff.
out there, but I just wanted to make sure people's just fill up quick, afford to go to one conference. But I think we're going to have, as far as this conference, I think we're going to have dinner and lunch options that you kind of buy into. And so you won't have to really go anywhere. It'll just be all there. And it's not going to be boring. Let me put it this way. We have a few things planned, especially on Friday night, that I'd never been done before. And if we can get these two people to show up on Friday, like I think we can, it should be some fireworks. So anyway, I'm excited about it.
Hey, by the way,
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Michael.
I was just going to say, don't forget to tell everybody where you can buy your book, where they can buy your book. Is it an Amazon deal or is it a Books and Noble?
You'll probably find it in the free box at Salvation Army.
Right.
You can on Amazon if you want.
Yeah, that's where you find mine.
It's discounted at Hangar One Publishing to like $8.99. So if you buy it from the publisher, you're gonna get a discount. If you buy it from Amazon, you're gonna send Bezos to the moon a lot quicker. If you buy it from me at a concert, then I'll be able to my gas tank. So there's different ways you can buy it. You could, if you want a copy and you want me to sign it, shoot me an email over at the almoonlab@gmail.com, or shoot me a message on Facebook, and I can sign a copy and slip it in the mail for you. But I'm working on the audiobook portion, and I don't know if there'll be a part 2 to the Almoon world. Maybe there will be. I don't really have anything to write about. I'm just kind of working on this documentary and trying to steer part 2 in the right direction with Brett and Jill. And we are going to get a podcast up, and I guess an announcement. There's a Flash of Beauty podcast. And so you'll be able to, if you've already met these witnesses, now you'll have an extended experience with them. We're going to ask them questions and take them further. And that will be, I don't know if it'll be weekly, maybe it'll be every other week or something like that. And maybe a beauty podcast once a month after dark, like something a little bit more racy and laid back at midnight. And those are the two things that we're working on to kind of keep people talking about it. And I'm sure people have questions about Flash of Beauty and the new addition that happened to it at the end, and so we're going to address those as well. So steering into controversy, never away from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you were talking about the psychosis, Tobe, were you talking about the person who's experiencing it would experience psychosis, or the people that would be their interpretation of what the people who are relating these experiences are going through?
Well, I mean, to the people that have taken the blue pill, we're all, everything we've described is, um, first of all, it's a discipline to reach into this basket and say, the can't come in right now, because you talk to someone who's invested in Newtonian science and you say that, Bigfoot cloaked and walked right in front of me, you're discounting a whole host of things as to diagnose you as someone who's subjective to scary sounds, and so therefore it must be something shadowy and magical, or it's a squirrel that is ran on two legs past you and it sounds big because it's on gravel. I mean, there's a million ways for them to diagnose you and make you sound absolutely crazy, and you just have to get over the fact they're going to do that to you.
Yeah.
But what happens if it's your family? That's the thing, is that, go back to Roy Neary again, and, he's absolutely desperate to have his wife believe him. And she's desperate to have him quit talking about it. She's desperate. It's that connection again, that blue pill world before the lights followed him in his pickup truck and the mother, or the little drones fly over him.
Yeah.
Instead, you see this separation start to happen between a married couple. And then eventually, not to spoil the ending, he gets inside the craft and leaves. It's just like, he's sold, that world's done. And that's her journey. And so, I talk to these people all the time, kind of in those same positions.
Yeah. Well,
I had that conversation in the last 12 hours with a guy that's in that position right now. And it's, it's usually guys with a life, or it's guys, that are trying to decide how much of this to pursue for at the detriment of that blue pill world.
yeah.
I've got this giant blue light behind me.
As you know, I'm very fortunate that my wife is right on board with me. So we're very blessed there. We both have had the same kind of experiences. And to be honest, I don't know if I am unusual, as you know. It just doesn't, I don't really highly unusual. I just don't care.
Emphasis on the highly.
Yeah, highly unusual. I just don't care who believes me. I mean, it doesn't matter to me what people say, but by the same token, my wife is right on board with me. So that's really, really good, because we experience and we go out and we do our things together. Well, especially when we are together, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But those are those are the things that are coming up, and I'm actually headed out first thing in the morning to an active area. I mean, all the peninsula is active, so who really cares? But these are interested in what's going on in the sky. So for me, that's double the. We're going 6,000 feet up near Hurricane Ridge before the snow falls and the parks close. And these people are all jazzed up to sit in their lawn chairs and look up instead of, Bigfoot hunting. So there's a whole opportunity to experience other things other than Sasquatch. And, I've spent so much time and been through, just got a new car, and I've been through several cars before. And part of it probably is trying to get back in the bush, far enough. Although I don't really do that now. I go camping or friends, but I don't go chasing the phenomena, because if you really want to know the truth, you don't have to do that.
No.
If you're doing that, I think you're doing it wrong. If there's a wrong way to do this, for me, I don't do more.
My opinion, once you start experiencing it, it comes to you,
Hmm.
and you also get
Yeah.
and
And
it
some
also
people call those, the hitchhiker effect, but, um, you know, the hitchhiker, okay, it's a hitchhiker,
Isn't
but
it?
I don't mind if
Isn't
Sasquatch follows me home.
isn't it more frequency related? Like, I mean, I tend to view it as like a vibratory rate, right?
vibration.
Hmm.
Yeah, you're
Well,
right.
Right.
Potentially, this is just theory, but
well, no, no, I agree with you. I think that when they connect with you, or whatever, it's easier to connect with you when you're resonating on a vibration that is closer to theirs, because they're on a much higher vibration than ours. So when you're raising your vibration and you're meeting them here, that's when the magic, and that's when um, the connections really take hold. If I'm talking about the nonsense in the world in the last couple of years, or I'm hating on people and doing and talking low vibrational stuff,
they're
they
not
don't come anywhere near me, man.
right.
They don't you have to be thinking heartfelt positive thoughts or whatever.
Right.
And
Well,
again, I've got a relationship with them that's loving and a teacher student kind of thing, and it so um, they're not trying to scare me or whatever. But they know that they can't reach, but they want to reach me when I'm on that vibration. So in my
Hmm.
opinion, you're absolutely right, Justin.
and so the reason I brought that up is what you said, Toby, that you don't have to go chasing like Julie. You don't have to go chase. I mean, it's nice to be able to go way out and look at the stars, uh, uninterrupted by city lights. That's awesome to have that experience and connect. However, um, those that say have CE5 contacts, or they call in craft, they can do it from their backyard in a city. And uh, sometimes the craft will show up, and come down and be close and sometimes far away and flash just to let the individual know that, okay, we're here,
Yes.
So and I
Hmm.
tie that in because I theoretically believe that they're probably vibrating at a similar frequency or a higher frequency as the Sasquatch. You know, Sasquatch certainly way loving energy. They're the well probably super smart. They're
Yeah.
highly
Well,
highly
See,
intelligent.
I'm not there yet with any of the vibration theories. It is the to-go theory as far as how to connect with the spirit world. It is the to-go thing as far as decalcifying your
And
pineal gland.
Oh man, don't buy into
And
that. Everybody's connected the same. I mean, we have no reference of how high we are, how tuned in we are. You've had an experience. You've had experience since 2007. You're having an experience now. You just don't bother second guess it. It's there. It's part of the reality. It's part of your life.
right,
You know.
right.
It's
yeah,
like what I'm saying. You don't know what's keeping your breath going in your body. If you understood that, you'd understand we're
Yeah.
connected all the time.
The
right.
thing, yeah, but then you get people that I mean, I'm agreeing with you, Michael, but you do get people that claim to have closer because they're more in tuned and they're more disciplined and they're more enlightened, and then you get this term light worker and these enter the new age phenomena and all of its trappings, and that to me has always been a real put. uh, I write about in that book how difficult it is for me to embrace the culture that surrounds things like that. And so we were and still very um, undisciplined to, experience this phenomena. Like I like to fart around when I'm in the woods. In some cases, literally, and crack open a PBR and just kind of, you know, enjoy the moment. And so for me, it's just it's totally surprising that it will come underneath those kind of undisciplined circumstances. Quite literally, the only reason the book has the name Lab
What a
written in
bunch
it,
of
Al Moon
ideas. You're
Lab,
just
isn't because
being
we thought
yourself,
we had
man.
lab coats on and we were studying it. The word lab came in is because when Daryl walked to the garage and saw me, making this giant Sasquatch structure, he's like, "Oh my gosh, you look like a Dr. Frankenstein here in my porch." And so that was, how the Al Moon Lab got its name. So
He
we were
probably looked
always
at you like the
poking
guy
fun
who
at
was making the
ourselves.
mashed potatoes in that movie when you were doing that.
Yeah. No, that's the first chapter is me talking about Roy Neary, and me kind of understanding through my own little 6-year-old mind watching this midnight showing on cable of this huge man making these mashed potatoes. That so burned into my brain that Close Encounters of the Third Kind. But and I gotta go here soon. But so was the world of Twin Peaks. Like I constantly talk, at my own detriment about the show Twin Peaks. But for me, Twin Peaks is a really important show when it comes to
I think
understanding
so.
how important the trees are. It is. There's no show like it that focuses in on the supernatural power of the forest, accurate they were about how to engage the natural and the neutral territory that you're going to find, for the most part, very neutral. You also, for the most part, in the world of Twin Peaks and also in the world of Bigfoot, what you discover is a mirror. What the character Dale Cooper discovers that his doppelganger, the evil portion of him, also exists inside this waiting room. There's the good part of him and the bad part. Well, you see that in this field as well. You see all the narcissism that shows up in some of these apers out there and how they have the answer. It's literally like the only reason that you Bigfoot is to hold up an image of yourself to see what you will become once you understand that this other world exists. So I see a lot of parallels between the world of Sasquatch and the world of Twin Peaks. And oddly enough, in the town of North Bend, Washington, there is a lot of Bigfoot supernatural reports on Mount Si. In fact, I just met a mother and son that have a crazy stuff, including UFOs landing
Yeah, a lot of
on the backside of Mount Si, aliens coming out of the craft, giant crop circles. There's a guy named Robert Husted who's a wood carver out there. He kind of studies it full time. So I don't know, man. I always tell people if you want to get to know the supernatural, start with some Twin Peaks, and then you'll get a feel for the Pacific Northwest. I see a lot of head nodding in Justin's
well, yeah,
behalf too.
I know. Yeah, North Bend area.
You agree? Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, even up area too, in Anacortes.
yeah. Well, there I lived in Sammamish, Issaquah, Redmond.
Can you hear him, Brian? I can't hear him.
I can.
Can you?
I
Okay.
can hear you, yeah.
Sorry, my audio's on the fritz again.
Go ahead, Justin. We can hear you.
Yeah, and or
Say that again.
encourage people to look into Native American history. First story. They talk about
Yeah.
having the Sasquatch plant tribes and little people, inner earth beings, star beings. I think I think we society in general tends to process information through the different lenses that they were conditioned to believe in.
Exactly.
Yeah. So they have no comprehension of really what it is because all they've been taught is black and white.
Yeah.
And so until you're at the point where it starts resonating and they want to do a little, maybe it triggers a response. But a majority won't get it. And I'm probably that maybe never will never get it, but I don't know if it's necessarily a new age top. I think we're starting to remember how connected we once were as a planet.
Yes.
And it's just we're coming back to with that
old. Yeah, they should call it the old age, because the new age is not that. These are the old ways.
ways.
Yeah.
They're starting all different breakthroughs in quantum technology, the use of crystals, and
Right.
so there's, I think we're just, science is trying to figure, we as a society have gone on these theoretical Newtonian, and they're starting to realize that, whoa, maybe we took a wrong turn, and the ones that are making the breakthroughs have literally got traditional sciences now looking into this quantum connection. They're looking into this spooky science and weird magic, right? Because that seems to actually be able to explain what's happening, and on a larger scale, and it's happening. I don't think it actually. I have a feeling that it's going to continue to just unravel or unpack. It's going to be more and more, and people have a lot of terms for it, ascension or whatever, switching from different 3D to 4D to 5D. I don't really know exactly what it is. I just know that I feel a huge amount of gratitude and respect to first of all come in contact with other individuals who have taken on the responsibility of and have the knowing. They have the knowing. They know because they've had interactions that no one can take away. They know, right? And I think there's only not a handful, but there's almost 8 billion people on the planet, and this is still you guys are front runners, right, on bringing this information forward, right? Still a very small segment of the population knows about this, but there's a reason that there's a reason that they've reached out to individuals themselves.
Yeah, because they know that they can work with you.
Yes,
and because you're heart-centered. That's why. And I think that the indigenous people or whatever, the things that they say about the Sasquatch, about their cloaking, shape-shifting, there was only time, and the now and the past and the present are all experienced in the now. All that far out stuff that they say about Sasquatch has been my experience, and they know what they're talking about. This is not like some savages, that they're just dismissing from myths and legends and folklore or whatever. These things are real experiences from these people that they've experienced, and this is really who these Sasquatch people are. Because I've experienced all.
Well, I want to get Justin's opinion on this as someone who does have First Nation blood. Getting to know anthropologists and biologists and people that are connected to the First Nations people and work with them as scientists. There's this appreciation for studying the history of the First Nations people, an appreciation for knowing how to interact with First Nations people and their oral traditions. But it seems belittling in a way that they do it, because they take it so far and then they say, oh, but that's just their stories. And they almost pat the head and say, they're the people and bless their heart. It just patronizing to me how it's always been appreciated like that. But yet they'll talk about everything up to the reality of what they're really saying about this supernatural existence. And walking between these two is just tantamount to the First Nation experience.
Yeah.
Vision quest, for example. I mean, I've wandered into a young man, First Nations, on a vision quest in the remote forest, and it was very serious. I'd been out there for a long time, and we sat by a river and had a conversation. It wasn't as though he was just going out there to, go on a simple walk. It was a spiritual journey. And so, I opinion on that. Do you agree with that? Do you have to say to people that feel that way?
Hmm. Well, there's a long answer and a short answer. What first came to mind was one of the most powerful ways to dismiss or discredit someone is tell them that they're crazy, right? Tell hey, you hear a story and you're like, this guy's crazy, and only you get that being told so many times. Now you got to keep in mind the Native Americans, the First Nation people, that on a large scale, they're still uh, way on land, reservations, and still don't, they're there's a lot of problems, I should say, and there's some awarenesses that are hopefully the tide will change where enough people say that um, they need to be given, I guess, maybe a little bit more consideration. I mean, it's a pretty pretty
Mm-hmm.
tough topic, but the reason I say that is because here in the states, the First Nations people aren't necessarily they're not equal, right? I'm saying it in from a class standpoint. So the information from that they're passing on is almost as if uh, it's folklore and or easily dismissed when actually they are for for the most part many are still connected with the land, still connected. They're in
Mm-hmm.
the flow and they understand. However, they don't want to talk about it because in the past, you know, um, the society didn't look so favorably upon their connectedness. But
Mm-hmm.
they many do have the answers, and that leads into I don't know. Have you guys ever interviewed Garrett Duncan? He's from the Navajo tribe. He's a Navajo. I think he's an elder, but he connects with Sasquatch. Um, they're his guides, and yeah, he's very another very powerful healer. You can find him on YouTube and Facebook. I don't know if you guys. He's very knowledgeable and tapped in.
I don't know of him yet.
Yeah.
I know of him. Yeah, he's pretty amazing. Actually, his star language and all that.
Yes. Yes. And that it you know what I found with all these little experiences is how many synchronicities and how interwoven things are. Um, especially when you start meeting individuals that have had these experiences, and then you start making these connections, and then you find,
Mm-hmm.
well, like I find out, oh my gosh, so and so over here, you know, and all this has happened since I started having these more in tune experiences. Let's say, whether it be the UFO people or the Sasquatch encounter fairies. So
There has to be a connection to what the First Nations would describe as circular time, because
Yeah.
the amount of synchronicity attached to this phenomena is so telling, to have moments that seem like they're specific people to meet, to have objects found at the perfect time at the perfect place, all those things laid out. I mean, it is an appreciation and a delivery system of a non-linear timeline. It's
Absolutely.
all happening at once.
Yes.
100%. I mean,
Yeah.
I've experienced that many, many times. Like hammer over the head experienced it. It is time is not linear for them. It's a fact
It's
for me. I
yeah.
mean,
And it's still shocking when it happens. Like, it's been, over years of this stuff building up. I still get the adrenaline rush. Like, you still want to share it with people that will believe you, and it's still, pleasing to the eye and the ear. Although, since the pandemic, it's really slowed down on our end. It's as though you know, it's just like, whoa, you guys are tense. I think we'll hang over at the neighbor's house. So it's been pretty slow at this property, although there's been a couple of major nods for sure, but very, very slow. Unfortunately, I have to bid everybody adieu.
okay.
But if you want to keep in contact, Justin, I'd love to. We're not too far away, so
No, we're not.
um, I'd love to continue this conversation over a beer or coffee sometime.
Just Toby Johnson at I can find you on Facebook, or is there social media?
Yeah, if you just spell that out and look for, I think I got a picture on there called the Al Moon Lodge, which
Okay.
is trying to upload. Or if you just email me at the almoonlab at gmail.com. There you can find me on YouTube. Um, the Al Moon Lodge is the YouTube channel, or just come to the conference in Forks. But you know, it's always nice to meet like-minded folks and hang out. I'd love for you to meet Marcia, because she'd so be down on what you're saying, and the three of us could talk, for a long time in Anacortes about this stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. I'm sure. And is now that the Forks conference? I'll get the details, but is that Memorial Day next year, or is that sooner?
Right. No, it's Memorial Day weekend 2023. The next conference is in October, I believe the 22nd, in Yakima. That's the one with Paul Freeman and Bob Gimlin and myself and the documentary crew. And then going to start live events time soon, unless I find the perfect venue, or if we used to do live events in Port Townsend at the Manresa Castle, which was a perfect spot, right? Like, once a haunted castle, to do a paranormal podcast was like the bee's knees. Um, so, you know, if Port Townsend doesn't lose its mind with COVID stuff again, then we'll go back there. But I don't know. I'm waiting to find the perfect place, because I love doing live events like this. That one-on-one time, man, crazy stuff happens too when people like us get in a room. Like the paranormal stuff, like, oh, you guys want a show? Okay.
Truly,
Well,
truly.
Yeah.
if we can, when we connect, not if, but when we
Yeah.
connect in person, I have some real close friends who are tapped in that area that I can introduce you to, and um, yeah, organic.
Okay, cool. Yeah. See, this is awesome. I don't really know anybody. I moved up here from Eugene, Oregon about 5 years ago, and then the pandemic happened. So it's been kind of, like, I haven't networked a lot outside the Bigfoot world, and so it'd be nice to meet
Well,
other people, because I think we're here for a while.
if you're open, if you're open to maybe
Mhm.
now just tap into the metaphysical community, because I would
Okay.
only I would almost guarantee you, yeah, that's a strong word, but you'll probably get, since you said like minds together, since they're since they're already tapped in, they're used to different beings. Sasquatch is just another healing energy that comes in, and that, anyhow, I can introduce you to some of the individuals with the
Okay.
community that
I would love it because we've been isolated long enough, and I feel like our group is shrinking,
okay.
and I don't necessarily want it to go down just to
Yeah,
a couple people. So it'd be nice to grow.
and so and some of the community are like more into Sasquatch, to say. So they know Sunbow, True Brother, and they go on the camping
Right.
excursions. So anyhow, I'm tapped into that circle, and I would love to bring you in. And you
Okay.
two,
Yeah.
Brian and Mike, yeah.
Well, I just sent you a friend request, so
Awesome.
We
I'll
need to get if we can
yeah.
get Brian over the border, maybe he could be a part of our drum circle.
See, we do drum circles on Sunday too. That's awesome. So, yeah, there's a reason
Yeah.
just come in.
Brian's got a couple killer drums.
yeah. I normally don't do the
Hey, well, thanks
I'm
for
doing rim shots and all kinds of stuff. It usually works out okay, but I don't do it traditionally. I just do it from the heart, from feeling.
He as
What?
well.
What are you laughing at?
You need to get somebody who's really good at rhythm to lead you guys.
I am good at rhythm.
That's why I said get somebody else who's really good at rhythm that you can follow.
If you have to say you're good at rhythm.
Well, the fact he suggested I wasn't, I had to defend myself.
Brian can sing like.
No, but
We
I
were talking
mean,
about
you're
his
good
own
at the rhythm that you're banging on, but you have to, when you have a group, you have to like sync the group together.
I know.
And
I
that's
know.
harder.
I know how
That's
that
harder
works.
than it sounds.
I played in bands.
That's harder than it sounds because the guy, whoever the new guy is, who's completely off. You know what I mean? So
No, I know
that
exactly
takes
what you're talking
practice,
about.
man. That takes practice.
Okay, whatever, man.
Look at Brian. You pissed him off.
Oh man, I mean that's what being musical is. You just know how to get into the sync with things, Like I know how to do harmonies, I know how to get into the rhythm of somebody playing, I can compliment them. That's just natural.
Well, I have to give you a compliment. You can sing on key. I'm having a hard time singing on key.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give you a key. Hey guys, I gotta take off.
We'll give you a key. Okay. Thanks for coming, Tobe.
We'll talk soon. We'll connect online.
Yes.
Yeah. Adios.
Quantum physics, okay? Quantum physics. Go back and watch some cartoons on quantum physics because quantum physics has all the answers to all the questions. When people call you crazy, you say, well, look over here. There's quantum physics says this, and it's entanglement and things like that, collapse of the wave function and all this kind of stuff. It's all there. We've already got the physics for it. We got more physics on consciousness than we got on Newtonian reality. Give people that. They won't give you, their brain will melt and they won't call you crazy anymore.
I'll tell somebody real quick here. Check out, go check, boy, why is that acting up here? My mic is totally losing air. Excuse me, guys. Go check out a couple different books besides the book I wrote. Go check out a book called Dark Matter Monsters by Simeon Hine. Go check out another book called Manatang by Prahoda. She's out of she lives in northern Washington somewhere. Both of those get into the quantum entanglement theory. They get into understanding the scientific ramifications for looking into this stuff, because there's ramifications for asking some questions about Sasquatch that can get you in some hot water. And in Ron's case, talking about quantum Bigfoot, I don't think he's got any hot water yet, but when you start leaning in on the names of things on the periodic table and what they can do, and have samples of it to prove it, things get really interesting. So if you want some interesting reads, that's what I'm reading right now. Manatang by Pearl Prohoda and Simeon Hines, Dark Matter Monsters. All right. Pleasure, my friends. Thank you for having us on here.
You got her. See you next time.
Thank you guys. I was honored.
I'll talk to you later.
Bye-bye. All right. Hang on a second. All righty. Well, thanks for coming on, Justin. I can't wait to talk to you. I'm much more along the lines of the First Nations people and the energy and the spiritual and the teachings and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I could tell, your guys' conversations resonated with me, and I can tell that you're operating from your heart chakra,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's why a lot of what you're saying is in alignment with the experiences that I've had. So I have an inner knowing as well.
Absolutely, man. You just get that knowing. I mean, you watched a few shows, you know what we're all about. Mm-hmm. We're on page together.
I'm glad you jumped on, because look at that interesting connection. You didn't know that you guys were living like within a few towns of each other.
Yeah. No,
that's pretty cool.
It'll be interesting to.
Here's a good book for you, Justin.
Which one is that?
Well, it's my own. That's the book I just finished writing.
I can't. Okay, well, I'm gonna get it.
It's called A SASQUATCH Story, My Life as a Clan of RE, and it talks about all the cloaking, mind speak, shifting into people, animals, energy, zapping, all that stuff. All the stuff the First Nations people talk about, I've kind of experienced. So it's all in here. And I'm not into selling books. I'm just into talking about who they are, actually. But I'm sure we'll talk. I'm sure we'll talk from here on in. Are you able to cross the border? Well, yeah. Actually, all restrictions have been lifted anyway. So you'll have to come up and visit me. I'm just in Vancouver.
Oh, that'd be awesome. I love that city. Beautiful.
Well, I'm not actually in Vancouver. I'm 50 miles.
How long you been connected to the SASQUATCH people and the star people so far in this lifetime?
Since I want to say 2019, 2020, that I can remember. That session that I was telling you about that I had with Derek was in 2020. But I've had some like off the chart, over the top experiences, Michael. So
well, maybe we should have you on, and you can tell your story if you can handle the marathon talks that Brian likes. He loves to talk for 3 hours.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. You guys are awesome. I would love that.
But and if you have any of your friends who are into Sasquatch, that'd be fun. You can have 2 people or 3 people on if you want. We're open to all that. The more the merrier, because everybody's got a slice of the pie. And maybe not everybody's got the whole pie, but we all got a slice of it. That's for sure.
I agree. Yes, and I do have. I've been on. I'm grateful to now have come into circle with individuals that have also had experiences and are operating from their heart. And this doesn't, I found a tribe community, whereas these topics can be very isolating at times, even though it's kind of like the most wonderful experiences that on an individual level that you're going through. It typically, because others aren't resonating at the same frequency, and you start trying to spill your story because you're excited, and then you get shut down typically by friends, family, and acquaintances, because they have no context. They can't, they just, the first thing, oh, you're crazy, and they discount your stories. But it's kind of also been the best thing that's ever happened to me, because I've actually come into resonance or found soul tribe, which is actually have filled the gaps that those that I thought I was close to left. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, that's for sure. When you talk about frequency, frequency is falls under the category of birds of a feather. And if you're not in the same frequency, you're not going to stick around that flock. That's for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'll reach out to Brian, and then leave some contact information. And yeah, in the future, if we can, if it worked for everybody's schedule, I'd be honored to come on.
Well,
We'll,
look,
we'll have you on.
That'd be awesome.
We'll have you on.
in 2012, I had a contact with some ETs, right? And then it was like only about 3 weeks or a month later that I started to make friends with the Sasquatch people. So that my story timeline is a little bit like yours. I had some pretty solid connection with the ETs, and then it's the Sasquatch, and after the Sasquatch, I had some even more stronger connection with an other ET race. So that's all part of the mix. It's all part of the Inside Out team that we're getting bombarded with elevating and mind expanding stuff from the inside out.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, it's lucky that I got a thick skin and some of us do, because I really don't give a damn what people think. Because
yes, you do. I just told you you couldn't have rhythm with your drum, and then you got upset.
Well, that's different. That's music. That's music. That's different, man. I'm talking about my experience or whatever, because the stuff that you probably experienced, Justin, from just a hint of what you're talking about, from what I've experienced, like 95% of the people who are into Sasquatch would just think we're crazy, and you know what? That's fine.
Yeah, right.
I don't care, man, because I represent. Well, I mean, this sounds haughty-taughty, but I represent them, and as representing them, I have to tell them. If I don't tell the truth, then I'm not even going to talk at all. So I'm just going to tell it as it is, and I don't give a crap what people think of it. I'm just going to tell it as it is.
Hey, Brian, let me ask you: do you talk to a lot of people? You meet them on the trail, you meet them in restaurants and stuff. Do you ever have anybody try to shut you down or call you crazy or anything? Because I just don't see that happening to you very often. Maybe once or twice, but mostly you always tell stories about being well received. Is that true?
I usually do. Yeah, actually, yeah. Because I think because people can usually tell sincerity. And if there's ego involved in telling stories, they can tell that too. So I don't think I present them as an ego based. And people can just pick up on people who are telling the truth, or at least believe they're telling the truth. There was only one time I had a funny experience. This was funny. I was in the woods, and that day I was that day I saw a Sasquatch cross the path. And it materialized out of thin air. Okay. It 3/4 of the way across the path, I couldn't even see it. Then it just materialized, walked off the path. Then I was getting all these glyph messages from them, which is the stick writing. You know about glyphs, Justin?
Yes.
So I was getting all personal messages and stuff. And then they were giving me mind speak, but in a different kind of mind speak, although I've experienced a number of different types. But this kind of mind speak was like thought placement, where they were leading me someplace. I just get the urge to go someplace, and then they would show me what they had there and whatever. So it was an amazing day. It was just like phenomenal day. And so I'm walking along on this trail, and I see this old guy coming up, right? This old guy coming up, and I was talking to him for a few minutes, and I said, God, you wouldn't believe what happened to me. I just saw a Sasquatch cross the trail, and he started yelling and screaming at me. I know Jesus Christ, hallelujah, hallelujah. He was screaming at me like I was telling something like sacrilege or something, like offending him. Literally, he was screaming and yelling at me. So that was one time, but generally, I just get I get good response.
I've heard a lot of your stories. There's almost always good response. Almost always.
Well, they're good stories, man. I think.
Yeah.
They are fantastic stories.
Well, you got a smooth delivery. I think that's part of it.
I'm a smooth delivery guy.
Smooth
And
talker.
I'm smooth, and I'll serve you pumpkin pie in the morning. Oh, that sounds romantic. I don't want to.
I think when I first started having the experiences, because I had a really big UFO encounter back in 2012, and saw a lot of things, and I think my way of processing it, I turned in that character, Richard Dreyfuss's character on Close Encounters, with the whole, mashed potato, devil's time, because it was coming from such a place of like shock, right? Intensity, shock. I can't believe what I just saw the last 4 hours. So maybe my delivery wasn't nearly as smooth as Brian, and subsequently since then, more and more things have happened that would be on the realm of supernatural, paranormal, shaman type experiences. And I've been able to process a little bit different, and I've worked on my delivery of the experiences.
Look at these pipes.
It can be intense.
Check this out, Beans.
Iron Man.
Sorry for
No
distracted. Sorry, Justin.
No
Yeah,
worries.
I mean, you gotta talk the truth, man, and you just gotta let it lay where it lays. I mean,
What's that American saying? It says, American Indians say this thing. You gotta believe in the river that you swim in. And I think that's true. If that's your experience, that's your experience. I never have any hard time. I don't really talk to a lot of people. I mean, I don't meet people in the grocery store and start talking about Sasquatch or stuff. But so I don't have that many contacts out here. But I don't mind dropping the idea that it's because Sasquatch around. I live in Savannah, Georgia, and there's Sasquatch around here. I mean, they're not like they are in the Pacific Northwest. But they're still around. Every major every city's got Sasquatch around them.
well, here's the thing too, is Beans. Like when I talk about our reading, whatever to people, how many people have we seen on our show that he connected with them, and they're in like California, and I'm in British Columbia, or they're wherever, anywhere. They don't have to be specific even to your area for them to connect with you. Like you don't even go into the woods, but you've got an amazing connection with them. I mean, that's just how it is. When they connect with you, they can connect with you anywhere, because there's no space, there's no time. As you've talked about, and we've talked about. So the connection is in your energy and in your heart. And once you make that connection, it doesn't matter where you are.
I think so. They're pretty portable friends.
Yeah. Well, Justin.
And so are the star people. I've had experiences with Sasquatch and the Star Nations in the same night.
Have you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And actually went on for like, I was watching some videos. It went on that night. Then I went to bed. Then I had an experience of a vision of contacting a Sasquatch that was in the video. Right, so I made a connection to a Sasquatch in the video while I was watching it, even though it happened in like 2014 or something. So and then got a rock thrown on my window. Right, I'm going, wow, that must be the Sasquatch. So I jumped up. It was like 12 o'clock at night. Jumped up, ran outside. It wasn't a rock. I don't know what it was. A katydid or something. But then when I was outside, I looked up and there was this UFO right above my head, and it was like I know what it's a UFO. Once you've experienced them, you know because you can feel them. And, oh, that's a UFO. Hey, how's it going, right? And then the next day, in the morning when I went out for a smoke, I walked down the block. There was like a dead squirrel there, a dead squirrel right in the middle of the road. You know, squirrels don't die naturally, especially not in a neighborhood with a lot of cats. But this poor little thing was dead. So that was like 2 days and the same kind of event.
Yeah. I wish I could tell you what my wife has experienced in the last few days, but she told me not to share it. So it's crazy, and it's all about connection. Well, I have talked about the part of it. She took a picture of some lava rocks in Hawaii, and like I said, space and time doesn't matter to the Sasquatch people. She took a picture, and this is not something unusual to my experience either. I've experienced the same kind of thing, but every time it happens, it's amazing. So she took a picture of these lava rocks, and she saw what was in the picture 100%. And then a Friendship Welcome X showed up in the picture after she took it. Literally showed up in the picture after she took it. And it looks like it's almost photoshopped on there, and it looks like it's suspended almost in midair. And it's a greeting from the Sasquatch people. That's our understanding is Friendship Welcome. So they can go anywhere and connect with you and let you know that they're with you. Ah, damn it. I'm just going to tell the rest of the story anyway.
You already told that story before.
No, not that. There's another part, and I won't mention names or whatever. Maybe she'll forgive me.
Are you going to
So
get
the other part
is get a spanking?
So the other part is maybe she's visiting some friends, and she says, it's time for me to take the next step with you guys, because she's starting to have a lot of experiences again, and it goes kind of in cycles. And so then her friend called her, said, come on down here right away. And she didn't, because she was tied up. But she found out after the fact that she requested that this was after the X showed up in the picture that was not there. She said, it's time for us to take the next step. And the friend called her downstairs, and what actually happened, she didn't see, is the friend she says, time to take the next step and show me a sign or something. So the friend, who is not even a believer, doesn't believe any of this stuff, told her the next day that what she was calling her down for was she was looking in her mirror in the washroom or something, and there was another mirror. She could look in a mirror and she could see another mirror right in behind, kind of thing. And there was a Sasquatch, big, huge Sasquatch standing in the mirror. And I'm saying a huge Sasquatch. And this person who doesn't even believe any of this told her, I had a feeling. I got the feeling. Something gave me a strong feeling that I had to tell you. That's the kind of stuff that they do.
Classic. That's classic Sasquatch stuff. Classic.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, very, very. And it's interesting that you mentioned how things show up in pictures that weren't there. I've experienced that as well.
Yeah.
But I wasn't sure if it was the fairies that were messing around, or in my remembrance, I've had interaction with different beings, but in a linear standpoint, fairies. It was galactics, then fairies, then Sasquatch, right?
Yeah.
But we know that time doesn't exist, especially not in their dimension. And I've also had the mind speak and telepathy, but I didn't know that I was actually interacting with Sasquatch. I actually thought that I was interacting.
I don't think it makes a whole lot of difference. There's one level of Sasquatch that I feel all the time that is the same as fairies. To me, there's one aspect way of looking at them is that they're like these big giant fairies. Like they're the largest of the fairy fae community, right? Because we've had people who've taken pictures of fairies and all this kind of stuff. So they're real. You know, the fairies are very real. But and they do the same kind of stuff. They stay invisible most of the time. They have minimal interaction with people, and when they do have interactions with people, a lot of time they yell at them and tell them get out. What are you doing? You're messing things up. So there's a lot of similarities between the Sasquatch and the fairy peoples, and to me, I think the energy is close to the same because
Right.
ultimately there is one energy. Whether you call it angels, whether you
Right.
call it the higher ETs, or whether you call it the Fey people. Yeah. And we are also, they're teaching us how to do all this stuff. There's people who can see with their eyes closed, and there's people who can levitate. There's people who meditate and they levitate, and there's other people who've can go through portals. We have friends who can open up a portal, and.
Yeah, do you know Lowell Johnson? Have you?
No, I haven't
That,
heard of him.
well,
Yeah, he can go through portals.
he went. Okay, so this gentleman, and he he was invited into Mount Shasta by the Lemurian.
Oh yeah, that guy. I just saw him. Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful stories, and as he went into Telos and come back to tell stories, he's been tapped as a ambassador to the energy that we're talking about, the beings that have been here for you know since time began, so to speak, in our
It's
remembrance.
interesting that you use the word more, the more, because that's my word for the great mother of everything.
Yeah, and more. Well,
Because
and
wherever you're at, there's always more.
more. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, no, it would be fantastic to come on again and do a show, and I can bring some maybe put you in touch, and you can vet them, but there's some connected individuals that uh, each have different gifts and
Yeah.
abilities.
We'd
But
love
one,
to have a lot of those people on. Absolutely. I'm really
yeah,
Can you bring a drum and show Brian how to go in rhythm with two people can be in rhythm together?
yeah,
I think he needs some lessons for the First Nation.
it's funny. We just participated in a drum circle on Sunday, and um, the building that we were actually doing the drum circle. Okay, first off, there's a lot of powerful energies that drumming can bring in. It changes the energy. Anyhow,
yeah.
we were also in a very highly active, building. And there were times like when you start drum, because you have 15, 20 different individuals or whatever, however many, where a rhythm goes off there, and then catches up and everybody gets into tune. And then once you're in rhythm, oh my God, magic,
Yeah.
like magic can transport to the different, places, mentally and or, even physically, people have sensations that they don't know where they were because they
Yeah.
were just hot and drunk. So I think getting a little bit sloppy with rhythm's okay.
So I don't know I don't know how it works with you, Justin, but everything I talk about in my book and from my experiences are lessons, and they're repeated over and over and over again in so many different ways until it's just undeniable. It's from downloads, it's from glyphs, it's from experiences, from incidents. It just so many different ways until it's just undeniable. And one of the ones that they proved to me on a absolutely undeniable fact to me is the thing about, like we were talking about, is linear time and that it doesn't exist. Because the Sasquatch people have shown me, and we'll get into more of this when we have our own show, but just to have shown me that they know what I'm thinking or what I'm gonna formulate, what thoughts I'm gonna formulate years literally years before I even come up with them. And they show me that in a physical way with my glyphs, for instance. The meaning that I came up with for them, they already knew what it was going to be years before, and it's undeniable if you look at the stories behind it, not story, multiple stories behind it. So they are interdimensional. They don't have linear time. They can shapeshift. They're amazing, man. Everything like that the First Nations people talk about, that, you know, people pretend to have respect for them or whatever, up to a certain point until they don't agree with the science or the norm. Then it's like they're crazy, or it's myths, or it's fairy tales or whatever. But from my experience, everything that the First Nations people have said over multiple nations that never had any contact with each other have the same stories and the same things they say about these people. All of that stuff is 100% true.
Yeah, and being still told today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you say? What do you say, guys? Should I connect?
I think you should tell everybody about your YouTube channel, and you should tell everybody about your book, and you should tell everybody about to join the Pork and Bean Show group, because we only need 55 more people, and then we hit 1,000. Yay!
I keep talking about my book, but I haven't sold one in a week ever since I started talking about it. So anyway, here's my new book I wrote, and all that stuff that the First Nations, the indigenous, however you want to refer to them in a respectful way, the people who follow the land and nature and the real way that we're going back to, all their lessons or whatever, I've kind of like experienced myself, and they're all in this book, and stories and thoughts and download, all that stuff. So I'm very proud of this book. Actually, I took it out in the woods and read it to the Sasquatch, my Sasquatch clan, the other day. Not the whole thing, just a little excerpt. And so, you know, I don't make much money off it, but I'd be honored if people read it, because I just want to get the word out there, right? I just want to introduce people to who they are. And when you find out who they are, you actually find out who you are. So here's my book that I wrote. It's called Sasquatch Story, My Life with the Clan of RE. Please join our group, Pork and Beans, on Facebook, because we have all these shows live on there, and we have really good people. Everybody's very, very respectful. We never have any condescending comments on there. It's a really
Over 100. We have over 100 shows, maybe 120 shows so far.
It's a real positive group. And then if you want to go and check out my YouTube channel, I actually figured out I got about 530 videos on there. All about Sasquatch and that kind of related stuff, from my experiences in the shows that I edit and whatever. And that's Sasquatch BC, the true story, and that's on YouTube. I'll send you that link.
Sasquatch BC, the true story, Pork and Beans show.
Yeah, no, I'm subscribed to that on YouTube.
Oh, are you? Oh, then you know I'm crazy. You already know that.
We tend to, crazies tend to flock together, right? Like-minded.
All right, everybody, I'm going to sign off. It's 12 o'clock on Eastern time, and I'm going to go sleepy bye.
So I didn't do an introduction, so I'm gonna do our funny little. Oh, you watch the show, so you know this stupid stuff. And we'll connect off air for a few minutes, Justin, and I'll try to get a date going with you. So on behalf of Pork Cunningham and the world's handsomest man, Frank Oliver Beans, this has been the Pork and Bean Show. Thanks everybody for coming, and we will see you next time. And these guys didn't even stick around. Respect, I tell you. See you guys. Thanks for coming.
I'm not like everybody else. I'm not like everybody else. I'm not like everybody else.